I have this concept called the Doom Train. Like, where do you get off the Doom Train? Or are you going to ride with me all the way to Doomtown?
It sounds fun. There's like a party there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll party there later. The argument you're going with is we're so interesting to study that it's going to leave us planet Earth.
It might harm us, but it'll definitely want to study us. I'm Mike Israetel, and you're watching Doom Debates.
Welcome to Doom Debates. My guest is Dr. Mike Israetel. Dr. Mike is a renowned exercise scientist and a fitness software company founder who is also, more recently, a podcaster and an AI futurist. Mike has been thinking a lot about the emergence of superintelligent AI, as we all should be. A few months ago, I did a reaction episode to one of his AI-focused podcast episodes, and now he's graciously offered to debate me. So today, we're going to trade arguments on questions like, what kind of superintelligent AI is likely coming in the next few years? Will the superintelligent AI future be closer to heaven or hell? How much will superintelligent AI care about human values? Is our whole species in imminent danger of extinction? And what workouts can we do to lower our stress? Dr. Mike, welcome to Doom Debates.
Liron, it's great to be here, man. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. I just got to give you major props here because, I do a lot of reaction episodes. I'm often criticizing people's takes, and it's somewhat rare for people to step up and be like, all right, let's hash this out. Let's debate. And I really respect that.
Oh, thanks so much. I thought that was the whole point of your channel is people come on and debate you. But that's not common?
So it is the point. It's just, so what happens is there's kind of a spectrum where if it's just like a totally random guy on the internet who has like the worst takes, that person's going to be like the most willing to come debate. But then if it's somebody who has like a reputation, they just like to have their own echo chamber and not debate.
Sure. That makes a lot of sense. Well, I'm a pathetic, lonely guy on the internet who has an internet reputation. So I'm a strange combination of both.
All right, there you go. Well, we respect that here. So give us some background here. So obviously your background is fitness, and I have a lot of really smart friends who speak highly of your workout material. I haven't dived into that stuff yet myself, but I do plan to get into it. But let me ask you, how did you get into AI futurism?
Yeah. I read me some Ray Kurzweil when I was younger. I think I read him in the mid 2000s. And I took his work as kind of like this person's way smarter than me. Some of the shit they say makes sense. Some of it I can't understand. Some of it sounds like farcical and fantastical. And a lot of it sounds like really blue-pilled, for lack of a better term. Like you're just like only trying to see the positives. And then the more that the future evolved in front of me and the more I got into keeping up with tech advances and so on and so forth, and the more I sort of reconsumed his older work and his newer work, I was like, oh shit, this might be like the smartest person of all time, and is saying a lot of really, really awesome shit. I mean, like, him being one of the smartest people of all time is kind of incontrovertible because he was inventing like ways of doing computing when he was like 14 or whatever. So his views on the singularity aside, but it got to be a really trippy thing. Then I read some Bostrom. I actually haven't read Bostrom's more positive recent work. I read Superintelligence, which has a fucking baller cover. It's like the owl or whatever on it. And so I read that. I found some of the work very compelling. I saw disagreeing with other parts of that. And so basically now that AI is like a real thing, because, like I'm 40, almost 41 years old. AI was like, this will never happen type of thing, like 10 years ago, really. And then now it's like, oh shit, it's here. And so as AI has been evolving, I've been noticing that there are a lot of very frightened takes about AI. Quite a few doomer takes, most of them not as intellectually thought through as yours remotely. And so I was like, you know what? I have like a strangely optimistic take. I might as well throw my hat into the race because I think because I'm so pro AI and I want AI to be everywhere and all around us, like I could maybe move the needle a tiny bit with my advocacy now that people know me from exercise stuff. So I was like, fuck it. I'll just start and I have some political views and sociological views I really wanted to express. So I started that second YouTube channel, the Mike Israetel channel. And that's kind of how my AI views got out into the space.
I gotcha. All right. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to unpacking those views because I've definitely noted down some places where I disagree. So in the context of today's debate, how about, I know you've already kind of gotten started on your worldview and saying you're pretty optimistic and you think Kurzweil was right about a lot of stuff. Do you want to flesh out more of like your opening statement of like where you stand on the topic of AI doom?
Yeah. Um, I think, as a general rule, more intelligence is almost always better than less. And because I think intelligence is kind of like the ability to solve problems, typically the way we have our intellectual architecture mapped out is like problems are worse than not problems. And if intelligence is a problem reducer on net, then we want more intelligence around than less. I think that at the same time, every problem solver, including the wellspring of intelligence itself, has massive misuse and danger potentials. And so I think my view on AI doom is like, AI doom is a very serious thing we need to consider with our best and brightest and take a nice long time to think about. But it shouldn't put us into a place where we forget about the massive upside benefits of gargantuanly more intelligence. So I think, having AI is akin to having like, I don't know, shitty analogy offhand is like sex. You can get diseases from sex. You can have unwanted children. You can have bad times between two people and it ruins relationships. But generally, sex is sweet. And so if you take the necessary precautions, you're going to have a really good time. Theoretically, of course, I've never had sex, but I've read a lot about it in various books.
Right.
But that's kind of my take is intelligence is awesome. We need as much of it as we can handle, but we have to be very attuned to every good faith doomer argument to see where there are problems and to try to anticipate them ahead of time, 100%.
Great. All right. Thanks for that. So here's my opening statement. I think that humanity is in this temporary bubble. If you take the long historical view, we live in a time of surplus because, natural selection, scarcity is the fundamental condition, Malthusian competition for resources. Ever since the Industrial Revolution, we had the situation where our wealth and our intelligence and our engineering has outpaced our population. So, yes, there are still people living on $1 a day, but it's getting more rare. And some of us, like most of the people who have access to YouTube and are listening to this podcast, many of us are very, very wealthy by world historical standards. The amount of resources and power and luxury that we have is unprecedented. And if you extrapolate out forward into the future, I'm just seeing a situation where this temporary bubble is going to close. So I think that the age of wealth is going to go back to the age of scarcity. And we don't realize it, but what's going to happen is we're going to turn up the dial on intelligence. And whatever was going to happen in like the next few hundred years of human population growth and human engineering, suddenly that whole window of like the normal human trajectory where we build ourselves wealth, it's going to really quickly snap shut as some AI kind of runs away with the future, kind of seizes every resource possible, goes back to a type of scarcity where there's just kind of like one force, where if you're not kind of like in the leading competitor winning this war, it's going to suddenly be very easy to find yourself in a position where you have no resources and you're not getting what you want at all. Unlike today's society where it feels like, it's easy for everybody to get what they want. That's kind of like my very high level overview of how I see the future going. I think that the evolutionary clock temporarily stopped with modern humans, but we're about to start evolution again when we build these hyper fast AIs. So basically there's an intelligence overhang that we're about to grab. The clock will start again. And then when I watch your videos and I listen to your points, I got to say, first of all, I agree with you on a lot of the points that talk about AI coming soon and how powerful AI is going to be and how good AI could be. So we actually dovetail a lot there. And also, I dig your vibe. So like, I wish you were correct. I wish I just agreed with everything. The problem is you make a lot of points where they sound like you're making these black and white points, which we'll get into. And to me, it feels like the moment I push on them and I try to like take them to an extreme or like play with quantities involved, then they kind of break down. So like the actual points you're making, I believe are going to break down, but we'll get into them one by one.
Sure, that sounds great.
All right, nice. So by the way, have you read much Les Wrong or Eliezer Yudkowsky, or is there any particular intellectual that your view on AI doom aligns with?
I used to read all that stuff, maybe like anywhere between 20 and 10 years ago. All those, like I call them like the super smart people on the internet, like Gwern and Les Wrong and all that shit.
Yep.
Rationalist movement, whatever. And that stuff is all fucking baller. I haven't kept up with it recently because I turned away from AI doom quite some time ago. I thought it was an irrational assessment, as we'll quickly find out here if I'm correct or not.
Well, I want to bring you back to the fold, Mike, because I'm still basically representing a lot of the views of that community.
Sure.
I mean, I don't think any one person can claim to represent it. but I do think that I'm pretty central. Like the views that I'm giving you now are pretty representative. So let's bring you back. That's my mission for
Cool.
today.
I don't have a community really because there's not really a coherent narrative of AI positivism that anyone's able to cobble together that like sort of defends the doomer attacks on many grounds. Maybe I'm one of the first people to do that. I think Nick Bostrom in his latest book, Deep Utopia, tried to do that pretty well. He's like 10 times smarter than me, but he probably won't return your emails, and I will. If that. I'm kidding.
Have you ever heard of effective accelerationism and Beth Jesus?
Like, goddamn Twitter memes. I just recently heard of effective accelerationism. I don't Twitter much because I think it's a fucking cesspool. But I have just recently learned that there are folks like that out there. I do fuck with like I consume some content from like Dave Shapiro. I don't know if you know who that is. Is an old relative.
Yeah.
A relative of yours, no doubt. And so like some of that stuff is really cool. Some YouTube people that I follow, but there's just like the AI positivity movement is like way smaller than the AI doomer movement so far, in my view. So hopefully I can rep the shit, at least historically. Maybe now that's changed. But to answer your question particularly, I think Ray Kurzweil is probably pretty closely aligned with my views on doom. He actually has some very serious sections in various book chapters attending to the major concerns. I like Mark Andreessen's view on AI doom. I think it's awesome. I think he's like, again, super smart guy. He's thought a lot through this stuff. And in many cases, I do agree with Elon Musk. I think one of Elon Musk's positions I would sort of call like extreme in my view, but nonetheless has like a real good weight behind it, is like, there's like, a 10% chance that it's fucking doom, and there's a 90% chance that it's like super prosperity. And so I think that's like a pretty good take for people who aren't familiar with the space to get started in, because it's like at the same time incontrovertibly stating that like the upsides here can be massive. But also saying like, if we get this wrong, it can go really, really wrong. And I think anyone who's an AI positive person and non-doomer or an anti-doomer who says to you like this can't go bad, gee whiz, that's at the very least not a very good rhetorical constraint to use.
Got it. Okay, well that brings us to the most important question of the show. You ready for this?
Yeah.
P-Doom, P-Doom, what's your P-Doom? What's your P-Doom? What's your P-Doom?
Dr. Mike Israetel, what's your P-Doom?
Almost so tiny. I would say a few percentage points, maybe less than 1%. But I think that view alone misses something, because it doesn't factor in the probability of doom should we choose to stop AI advancement. So I think the probability of doom without artificial superintelligence is nearly 100% if you take a few millennia view out for humanity. Like a rogue black hole wanders into our shit, we're fucking toast. We have no idea how to deal with that. We need superintelligence for that, problems of that scale. We need superintelligence for problems of scale we haven't even understood yet. We don't know how at risk we are. And I suspect due to entropic forces of the universe, we're at an insane level of risk all the time. Like we are not safe at all. And I think wielding the sword of intelligence is the thing that's going to make us the safest. It has its own probability of shooting us in the foot, but kind of like nuclear energy, I think there's much more upside to it than not. I think my net probability of AI doom is, you can't use negative probabilities, but I think it's much more of an enhancer. You can try, that the math on that gets wacky really fast, but you can try. And I think that, so on the aggregate, I think to me, it's like, we'd much rather have artificial superintelligence. The probability of doom without it is higher in my view than the probability of doom with it. It's near certain in my view. So even if it's 90% with it, I'm going with 90 versus nearly 100 in the other direction.
Right. So let's try to nail down some very rough numbers. I'm obviously not expecting, hyper precision here, but like what would be your P-Doom conditioned on no AGI and then your P-Doom conditioned on having AGI?
Over what timeline no AGI?
Let's fix the year 2100, because I agree with what you said of like, a wandering black hole is going to come to the galaxy. Like I agree these are problems we have to deal with in the next couple 100 million years. But if we just fix 2100, what's your P-Doom with versus without artificial general intelligence?
Yeah, this is just like real gnarly speculation. I think that the degree of the complexity of this problem I would have to say I would really need ASI to make the calculation for me for any kind of really good high fidelity estimate. I mean, there's a certain
No,
degree
for
with
sure,
which
but try to
P-doom
plus or minus 25%.
yeah,
Right?
I mean,
We've been very
even
rough
that's
here.
a gnarly heuristic if you dig enough into the underlying assumptions. The degree to which dynamic systems can change within a century is massive, especially at the scale we're going at. But I would say like P-doom for the next, so to 2100, I'll just like throw out a number. I'd say it's like 5% without AGI or ASI.
Uh-huh.
And I would say it's like less than 1% with it.
Wow, less than 1%.
Oh, yeah.
You referenced Elon saying that his PDOOM is essentially 10 to 20%, and you said you respect that. So do you think Elon is just wildly overestimating his PDOOM?
Oh, well, compared to many other doomers, marginally overestimating, compared to people that think AI is a certainty of death, which like I think like, and please don't let me miscaricature your position, but you're like, you and all the guys you associate with are really fucking smart, really well-trained people. So your take on doomerism is already like a very, very intelligent take on a subset. Most people's takes on doomerism is profoundly ignorant, and they think like almost everything's going to kill us, like genetically modified foods should have been completely banned, nuclear power should have been completely banned. AI is just a non-starter conversation. Like, I'm sorry, what, it can get smarter than us? It's 100% P-doom. I think there's like literally billions of people walking around with 90 to 100% P-doom like baked into their head. So I think Elon is way more correct that he is incorrect, but I would say he's still overestimating the danger. Yeah.
I mean, I agree with what you're saying with like the average person is like uniformly a techno pessimist, right? Like
oh my God,
yeah. On the street, they're like, oh yeah, new tech, I don't like it. And they say that about like the internet and social media, and they're also saying it about AI. Normally, I'm like you, which is, I caucus with the techno optimists, right? That's like my natural friend group.
Yes.
It's just in the specific case of AI, because I don't see it just as a tool. I see it as like, the next species.
Agreed.
It's kind of like in a category of its own. So now I find myself, I want to hang out with the techno pessimists just for this issue, even though, as you point out, they don't really know what they're talking about in many cases. They just happen to be right on this issue, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, there's a range of every kind of opinion, and there's like, roughly normally distributed like IQ and how much you've thought about this range for every single one. There's tons of AI doomers such as yourself and Elijah Yukovsky and all those guys. They're super fucking smart people. They really, really thought it through, and they're still doomers. And it was mad respect. That's why I'm on this call. If I didn't have a fundamental respect for you, I would never fucking have taken this. But if, on the other hand, there are AI optimists that are just like starry-eyed, like it's going to solve everything tomorrow. And you're like, are you out of your mind? Do you understand the order of magnitude problems this thing poses? Whereas, a lot of doomers are just like, new tech, bad, like smarter than me, bad.
Right,
and you're
right,
like,
yeah.
okay. So I really do like to stick to the intelligent end of the conversation in all grounds, even if we disagree. Because there's a lot to learn from each other and a lot of productive ground we can gain. Like, I'm never going to try to miscaricature your position of like, it's just ignorance or stupidity. That'd be insane.
Yeah, hell yeah. All right, that's great. So you're putting some respect on Eliezer Yudkowsky's name.
Of
I appreciate
course,
that.
man. That guy's like 10 times smarter than me. How the fuck would I not do that? I'm just some personal trainer idiot.
Oh my God. Well, yeah, I mean, I always like to analyze people's discourse quality. So in addition to saying whether I agree or disagree with their position, it's like, hey, are they engaging at a high level? And I do think that you're, rising above on that dimension.
Oh,
so
stop.
Congrats again.
I get like live statistics for you. This is awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'll keep you posted. If you do a low blow,
I love
I'll
it.
let you know.
He's like a graph that just goes down. I'm like, shit, I got to get my numbers up and say something nice.
Yep. Exactly. Okay, so P-doom, you said it's like less than 1% by 2100 as long as we have AI.
Yeah.
And then I want to make sure I get it. If we don't have AI by 2100, what are you imagining?
You're
as
like
the P-doom?
5-ish or something. Yeah.
Okay,
like a lot
so
bigger,
you're kind of optimistic overall, right? Because in my opinion, even nuclear doom, like the chance that we'll accidentally start a nuclear war or there will be like, Putin or another dictator, even that I probably put at like 10% by
Sure.
2100. So you seem like a pretty uniform optimist.
Yeah, I have very good intellectual reasons to believe these things if you ever want to dig on those specifics. But also, let me quickly get your definition of doom. Because like there's different levels of bad things. What's yours? What is doom? Like, what do you mean doom?
Yeah, so like you said, it's a gray area. Luckily, I can make a pretty crisp definition because I could be like, the world going forward is always worse than like 1% of the value that you place on the current world. It's like however much you think the current Earth is pretty cool and there's like a lot of good humans to value and a lot of worthwhile pursuits, imagine that the entire future will just always be worth less than 1% of that.
Oh, wow. Well, so I would say like the probability, I don't want to get too tangential, but the full-scale global nuclear war that does not allow for a multi-decade total recovery is insanely unlikely. Most countries are not even the nuclear exchange periphery. And nuclear exchanges are like highly game theoretically like unlikely because every dictator that knows the first lob off the nuke, they're going to be dead in 5 minutes. So I would say even there.
Okay, I mean, I have my own quibbles with the robustness of mutually assured discussion. It's a destruction. It sounds like that could be another debate, but
Sure.
I think that your estimate of 5% P doom by 2100 for non-AGI, I think that's totally reasonable. I don't
Okay,
have a
cool.
major issue with that. So I think the whole issue for this debate is you think that if we get AI, you're like very optimistic, right? You think that it's going to really solve most of our potential problems because your P doom is so low, only 0.5%.
Yes.
Okay. All right. That's a good laying the groundwork. So let me ask you this. There was a statement on AI risk that was very famous. It had a lot of luminaries signing it. It said, mitigating the risk of extinction from AI should be a global priority alongside other societal scale risks such as pandemics and nuclear war. Would you sign that statement?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. So, or I'll give you a pretty complex answer. On vibes, definitely would sign. The the thing doing a lot of work in that statement is the word should. Should be a global priority. In an unrealistic version of the globe, which is not our current globe, hell yeah, absolutely. This is like the most powerful technology that we can imagine. And it's going to get so powerful that we know one thing almost for certain. It's likely to get more powerful than we can imagine, right? So anyone that doesn't advise a very nuanced and measured approach to this is just like not familiar with like existential calculus of do we want to be around or not tomorrow? You know, that sort of thing. It's like your friend that runs across the freeway in the middle of rush hour. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
At the same time, I think this, realistically, I'm almost certainly not going to sign any sort of pledge like this. And I have a few reasons for that. Every month that we delay more rapid AI progress, we expose ourselves to two bad things, maybe three. I'll lob them all together. Thing number one is that there are countless people dying of preventable diseases that AI could just figure out how to cure and they would just stop dying. Aging is something that is theoretically, and I don't mean hypothetically, I mean theoretically at a deep level that we can understand, is potentially totally reversible with AI. And so every old person that dies needlessly because we delayed AI proceeding for another month at its full-scale development track is like everyone who dies of old age in that month is 100% red blood on the hands of people restraining AI. Now, it could be worth it because we're dealing with existential risks. So it's not saying like, oh man, like, hey, it's like a mini Holocaust every time. No fucking way. But we have to remember that that's what we're trading off.
Totally.
Yeah. The other thing is that we are always swimming in a sea of existential risk. If you have to line up all of the existential risk we're always exposed to, radically insane superintelligence is one of the near infinite levels of existential risk we're always exposed to. And so pandemics, nuclear wars, all the other shit. It's also the only one that can solve or get us very close to the limit solutions, asymptotic solution set. On every single one of those we can understand, and many that we can't even, we're not even aware of, like, like rogue black holes and stuff like that. So if we're pushing downstream this thing that could get us all killed, and because of that, sheathing our sword for something that could solve every other or radically reduce every other extinction level event, to me, that's a kind of an interesting calculus. Put very bare, it's like, whoa, this one thing that's like a super weapon, but also could be a bit of a mega curse. Let's say 50-50 P doom, right? I think that's charitable. Like knowing nothing at all, 50-50. Fuck it. 90-10. 90% chance is going to kill us. 10% chance is going to save us like crazy. Well, like pandemics and wars have a 0% chance of saving us like crazy. Rogue black holes and comets have 0% chance. And so anytime we push these things into like, oh, fuck, we're worried about later, we don't need AI yet, we're doing a very interesting form of mathematics, which is not super convincing to me. And now on the margins, it makes tons of sense. But the more you push AI timelines by saying we need to really focus on testing and we can't release it yet, and we really need to focus on testing and really focus on safety, you just have to understand that you're paying two kinds of costs. For sure, people dying of hunger, disease, war, etc. costs, and very, very serious existential crises that are not being attended to. And lastly, what I would say is the other word that's in there, the global part, there is no global consensus because China exists. And the Chinese government is like avowedly ethnocentric, currently runs a like in part slavery-based system of economy, and they're on a track, again, avowedly, to develop AI, not so much for the betterment of humanity, maybe Xi Jinping's version of humanity, But like, they're literally trying to build AI war machines and a surveillance state for very not fun reasons. And so because of that, I think proximately as the game theoretic calculus plays out in the real world, the thing we should be signing, in my view, is like, let's sign a document that says all the free countries of the world cooperate like crazy and run as fast as possible within reasonable safety constraints towards our AI being supreme to that of communist China. Because if communist China's AI is the first one out of the gate in a super intelligent fashion, fuck, Liron, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to have to smoke a cigar with you in a bunker or some shit like that, because we might be in a really, really bad place. So.
Right. Okay. So there's a lot of considerations, and you're kind of playing 4D chess, you're playing politics about the implications of signing the statement. What if I just ask you it in terms of the actual content of the statement, right? Without the politics, without the chess moves. Just tell me if you agree with the content. The content just says mitigating the risk of extinction from AI should be a global priority alongside other societal scale risks such as pandemics and nuclear war.
Yeah, fuck yeah. Yeah, that's what I said at first. On vibes, it's fucking dope.
Okay.
Yeah.
So even though your PDOOM condition on AI is a low, like 0.5%, you still think that it's salient enough that there should be like significant efforts trying to mitigate it?
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Okay. So
anything you do that has a risk needs to be done
maybe
carefully.
takes into account.
Say that again?
Maybe the reason your PDOOM is only 0.5% is because you understand that it would be higher with like a reckless effort, but you have some trust that there's going to be mitigation.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. So I mean,
Okay.
I think that like anything that you do that has substantial risk needs to be done carefully. Like nuclear reactors almost never cause problems, but I would never be like, fucking whatever, just build it however you want. That's insane, right?
Right. Okay, so we'll come back to the topic of how carefully is it really being done. I think that's a meaty topic to dive into. But first, going back to what you're saying about, I think you made some very valid points about how AI is helping. It's going to cure disease, going to cure aging. Everybody's PDOOM is 100% if we're all individually dying, right? And those are all very valid points. So I'm completely on the same page as you on the idea that we should analyze both the good things and the bad things, right? It's hard to disagree with that. And I'm also on the same page as you that it could be very good. So I'm not one of those people who is like, AI is stupid, it's a scam. I'm like, no, it could be heaven, right? So
If you thought it was a scam, you wouldn't be scared of it, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think we both have the heaven side of the scale, I think looks very similar for both of us. Like we both have like good visions of what it could be. I think the only difference is that I think that the side of the scale where things go bad is like high probability, right? Like something like 50%. I often say my PDOOM is 50%.
Okay.
It's more like 70% conditioned on building super intelligent AI. It's lower if we don't build the super intelligent AI. So should humanity have super intelligent AI in the next million years? I think we probably should. I think it sounds like a good idea, and I think that's enough time to figure it out. The problem for me is that the timescale's compressing to 2100 and even to like 2030, right? I mean, it's compressing down to like a crazy small amount because we're really rushing with AI. So my whole conversation is not should we build AI in the next 100 or 1,000 or million years. It really is should we be racing to build AI in the next few years, or should we take more time with it? That's really the question for me.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, my initial response to that would be something I just said a little while ago is we are living in a soup of existential risk, most of which we don't know about. And unsheathing the sword of massive intelligence is the number one-shot killer to reduce all other risks.
So the thing that you're calling the soup of existential risk, isn't that the same thing that you said was only 5% PDOOM by 2100, right? Because you said with no AGI, it's only 5% by 2100.
Yeah, totally. 5% is a fucking huge number. If you went on a roller coaster and there was a 5% chance of death, you would never step on that fucking thing. We're on it right now.
Okay, so if I were to convince you that PDOOM from building AI is 6%, wouldn't that completely invalidate your argument?
On the margins, it would, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I think maybe the crux, right? The thing that's, the crux of the disagreement is that which would actually change your mind, right? Like we should all volunteer, a good rationalist should volunteer how to change their mind, right? So it sounds like the crux of disagreement, maybe I could change your mind if I could just make you see that building AI, you don't even have to believe that it's super dangerous. You just have to believe that there's more than like a 1 in 20 chance that it could go awry.
Totally. Yeah, that would do it. I think that if it was like this really super dangerous thing, it's like 1 in 20 is like way more dangerous than any nuclear reactor, any nuclear weapon by the statistics. Yeah. It's like the most dangerous psychotic criminal you've ever met. So if you think about it like on a case-by-case basis, anyone who's ever walked by a serial killer, it's almost, no serial killer has seen only 20 people, and most serial killers don't kill more than a handful of people. It's the most dangerous thing, period, if it's a 1 in 20 risk of doom. So yeah, if you demonstrate robustly 1 in 20, fuck, bro, that's fucked. Like, yeah, that's insane. That's take some real serious, then we should just start a war with China right now to make sure they never develop AI. I think every doomer argument ends up being like imminent war with China should start way sooner, that we currently have definite supremacy. Like nuke China, at least a nuke in the middle of Beijing, solves a whole lot of problems for us for AI doom.
Right. Just going on that figure of 1 in 20. So it looks like the estimate of the space shuttle fatality risk, the US space shuttle program, which was supposed to be really safe, the estimate was a 1 in 67.5.
Which is crazy
when you're
high.
risking your life. Right, exactly. So if I can convince you that building an AI is a little bit more dangerous than taking a ride on the space shuttle, then you could be like, you know what, maybe we should slow it down.
3 times more dangerous to be fair. But,
right, or 3 times. Okay,
but no,
fair
on
enough,
orders of magnitude, just a little more dangerous. Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, that is a good framing. Right. It's a good framing for the rest of the conversation. I think, before we get into the meat of how to convince you that it's more dangerous, I think it's worth hitting on all the points where we agree on like how powerful it is and how good that it could be. I think we've got a lot of similar thinking on that. And also timelines. So I think our timelines are pretty similar, right? Because you're expecting super intelligent AI on not too far away from like the Elon Musk or the Ray Kurzweil timeline, right? When do you think it's coming?
This is a great question, by the way. So depending on how you define artificial general intelligence, which like I'm able to talk about this at like various levels of abstraction. One is like, is artificial general intelligence even a cogent term to use? There are people who say yes, people who say no. Both have excellent points. Both have some things they haven't thought through yet. But I would say like within most reasonable definitions, I think somewhere between 2026 and 2030 is when we hit AGI. There are several original definitions of AGI we've already surpassed. In 2024, GPT-4o, and then again in early 2025, GPT-4.5, both passed the Turing test. 4.5 passed the triple Turing test, which is like insanely fucking difficult to pass. Basically, most people think it's more human than humans are human, like direct comparison. Right. And so like in many senses, we already have AGI, but I think what really would satisfy almost every single good faith attempt to define AGI, I think by roughly 2030 plus or minus several years, we're there. And my best on the money bet is 2026, 2027.
Yeah, and I roughly have the same ballpark. I don't think that I have a better guess than what you can pull up by going to Metaculus or one of the prediction markets, and they just have a question like, when can you have an AI that can economically replace an arbitrary human, which is one working definition of AGI. Yeah. So
it's a good definition.
But you and I, we can tweak it. But so it is just interesting to note that you and I are very much on the same page in terms of like how fast it's coming, how powerful it could be, how good it could be. I think we both agree that it could be superior to human cognition in many ways. And in fact, it already is. You had a very interesting phrasing for this on one of your recent shows. You said that there's going to be super intelligence before AGI. Can you unpack that?
Yeah. So super intelligence before AGI is interesting. It sounds like a clever word trick, and in some sense it is, for the YouTube clicks, but I think there's some value there. The way that AGI is defined in the most conservative sense is that a machine has to be able to do every single kind of intellectual task that a human can do at either average human ability, or at like top end human ability, like really brilliant Princeton grads or something like that. Because, it depends on which one. In the scheme of how intelligence ratchets up in orders of magnitude, those are almost the same point, by the way. And they're like 2-month OpenAI update away from each other, so it doesn't fucking matter. But I think when you're looking at that definition of AGI, I think what ends up happening is you have to look back and say, how is that likely to happen? Well, machines are probably not going to have meaningful olfactory processing, taste, smell, things like that. And like, I'm a fucking crazy AI optimist, but I'm thinking it's the early 2030s before we get real traction. You're talking about scanning entire neural beds, re-architecting, basically quantum-sized sensors into a platform. Like, that's a fucking one hell of an achievement. Being able to like hear a song played and being able to kind of hum your own tune, but invent another tune, synthesizing like tons of concepts from a historical database. That kind of stuff seems like it's kind of like 2028 through 2035 sort of vibes. And you start to say, okay, fine, 2030, right? In 2030, I'd say Kurzweil, 2029, the machines can do everything humans can do intellectually, like no holds barred. Mm-hmm. By then, as a matter of fact, substantially before then, you have to ask, well, on the other, because intelligence isn't one factor. It's like a bunch of different stuff. It's like a toolkit. And so you have speed, you have depth of interconnectivity, you have working memory bandwidth size, you have linguistic ability, mathematical ability, and so on and so forth. On pretty much almost all of those now, AI is somewhere like pretty close to humans or just around the level, just above. And on like maybe half of them, like processing speed, like you've seen GPT-4o render results. It's like no one can speak or think that fast that's a human. It is super intelligent in that subsystem. So by the time we cross on that last system, let's say olfactory sense, like it can finally smell and smell in a way that makes sense to us in the same way it has the same kind of smell palette that we do. As soon as the AI of 2029 passes that threshold, you're dealing with a system that's orders of magnitude better on every single other quality. And thus it is instantly super intelligent. And I'll have to ask another question for that is, if you're dealing with a system in the 2028 that's re-architecting our entire conception of what computer chips should look like, it is the best therapist anyone's ever had. It is such an unbelievable leader of a country. It understands all of the functions and trajectories of governments, can simulate entire swaths of the economy, but it can't fucking smell yet. Is that not ASI in every damn near sense that it's really meaningful? And so I think artificial superintelligence and general intelligence are suchly defined that what we consider general intelligence, the way computers work, difference between them as people, is by the time they're even halfway to it, they're already super intelligent, all these other capacities. And another quarter of the way, on aggregate, they're super intelligent. I think if someone like, have you tried O3 by OpenAI yet?
Yeah.
O3 super intelligent. Anyone that thinks that's not super intelligent can just keep up with it on math problems. Go. Like, I don't even understand half the shit it's saying to me half the time. I'm like, hey, pretend I'm really stupid and define these acronyms, and it like painstakingly tells me what the hell is going on. Like I asked it to estimate its own IQ based on vibes, and it's like, yeah, like 180 to 200. And I'm like, that makes sense. So like that is super intelligence. And so for me, that's what I think the important reason that I say super intelligence will be here before AGI is this super simple. And I think you'll probably, this is very right up your alley. People are like waiting for this slow takeoff, and they're like, okay, AGI is going to be like this thing. It's kind of like a human in the early 2030s. And then it's a little smarter towards 2040. And then by 2050, oh boy, it's like Einstein. Bullshit. It is in many cases better than Einstein already in a tons of difference. Einstein couldn't write that fast. He couldn't do mathematics that fast. He couldn't interconnect multiple. Einstein is, compared to GPT 4.5, like the most ridiculously underread, underqualified person of all time. And so by the time we get to the nearing AGI, the effect of AI will be enormous on all of society. And that's the big take home. We can't wait for it to just be like a human and then a little bit better. It's going foom. Foom. I learned that word recently from you.
Yeah, exactly. So, right. I mean, that's very interesting. And this is what I mean by like, we dovetail on so much. I think you and I are on the same page that like the day when it can slowly simulate Einstein, probably like a few weeks later, it'll then be as good as Einstein, but also way faster, like the speed will quickly surpass Einstein, because all of these other capabilities that computers have that humans' brains don't will suddenly supercharge, it'll foom, as you say. And we're looking at speed will be superhuman, computer chip compared to a human brain. For the viewers who don't know, a human neuron fires at about 20 times per second compared to a computer chip, which is like, 3 gigahertz, right? 3 billion times per second. So the amount of serial operations that a computer can do when it's thinking is potentially close to 1 billion times more than a human. And, of course, there's parallelism. It doesn't fully work like that, but it is certainly food for thought. And you mentioned on your podcast, Mike, you're talking about computers having more memory than humans.
Perfect
more
memory,
data.
By the way.
Exactly. Yeah. Perfect. Right. Because human memory is very fallible. Self-modification. So it can debug itself. Like, oh, I don't like this part about how I'm thinking. Okay, fixed. Yep. Like, that's not going to happen again. And then self-replication. So anytime you have a super intelligent AI, you don't just have one, right? You have like, billions or billions of them. Sure. There's already tons of hardware that these things can run. So you and I are both on the same page that the resources are really amassing for AI to really rocket out the gate as soon as, whatever the last piece needs to be.
I mean, it's
right?
already rocketing in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, 1 billion people use ChatGPT. The rocket's here, man. It's just, it's an exponential trajectory. So like in the early 2020s, if you said ASI is going to be here by 2027, people probably correctly assessed you were mentally ill or you're just really smart. And then in 2025, everyone's like, yeah, no shit, AI. And then I think in 2029, people will be like either, lying in nuclear rubble if you're correct, or if I happen to be correct, hailing the new utopia and bowing to our robot overlords. Because, they're going to hear this. I want to be nice to the robots.
Right. Okay, so speaking of this rocket ship going up, how much headroom do you think there is above human intelligence? Do you think it's just going to rocket up to be like, okay, it's like Einstein on his best day, but not much better because Einstein is already kind of the limit of how much physics you can do? What do you think about the amount of headroom for a superintelligence?
The way I end up trying to phrase this in my head on a first pass before I say it out loud always comes off insanely insulting, so I have to walk back what I was going to say. Not insulting to you, insulting to the audacity of the assumption that humans are some kind of limit to intelligence. So the idea that humans are operating as some kind of like close to the asymptotic barrier of intelligence as it's expressed as a kind of computational quality of dynamic systems is just, first of all, not in evidence. Like there's no actual reason to suspect humans are some kind of intelligence maximum, like a global maximum in our space in the universe. Are they a local maximum? Yeah, like as far as we know, there's no aliens around yet, so sure. But like on pure theoretical grounds, understanding what intelligence is, what information processing is, there's just no reason to suspect that humans are some kind of cap to intelligence. There's another reason we shouldn't suspect humans are a cap to intelligence. I'm like, there's probably maybe it depends on how you stretch it, 10 to 30 submetrics, sub-abilities of intelligence, of intellectual ability. And on like half of those, computers are already like just orders of magnitude beyond us. So, people used to be impressed with like Jeopardy and memory tests. And you're like, oh, how does he know all those state capitals? Like, what the fuck? Like Google shut that shit down so goddamn fast. Like any CPU is better at retrieving data. So already that's nonsense. And then we take a look at, okay, fine. So not only are machines smarter than us in a billion different ways already, not only is there no prima facie reason to believe that humans can be are already close to the smartest thing that can be, we also have evidence of the fact that human subpopulations have gotten more intelligent over time. Like we know pretty well that, like the primate common ancestors we had are not as smart. So like, okay, so even evolution with its clunky bullshit is still making us smarter. Okay, that one falls off. And the last one would be like, okay, actually knowing information theory, what are like the hard limits with our current understanding of physical laws and our just building fundamental information architecture, like, what the fuck is that called? Von Neumann architecture for computing. And like, man, we're like trillions of decimal places off to how smart systems can be. You take like the Kurzweil thing where you have a cubic, a meter voxel of space, and you fill it with computronium, which is like the physically most at-limit ability to compute in that space. The human brain or a human body occupying that same space is like, again, orders and orders and orders of magnitude away from computronium. So we are better off seeing ourselves as like vastly stupid in the cosmic scale than we are some kind of super special smart.
Totally. Okay, well, you're preaching to the choir here, and a lot of the less wrong rationalist Eliezer Yudkowsky style doomers are also on the same page, so it is kind of funny. It's kind of funny how much we agree on. I do want to make sure we get to the meat where we actually disagree. I don't want to have this whole thing be a love fest, but I still want to ask you a couple more questions where I think we agree, because it is interesting to see what every guest says, because I have guests, or I do episodes about these other professors like Dr. Superhuman AI Capabilities or Dr. Keith Duggar. He was actually on the show debating me, and they make claims that I think you and I would easily dismiss, but I just want to double check to see where you stand. So for example, do you think that current AI is reason? Okay,
so like, I don't understand how that's a question. There are literal, like many companies have reasoning models, and they're not mystery under the hood. They like explicitly lay out their reasoning. They're doing formal logic on a problem set. Absolutely AI's reason. This is one of these like hashtag stochastic parrot critiques that like was really funny in 2022, but just tells you don't know things currently. So AI is absolutely reason. They reason better than people 9 times out of 10. Holy shit. Real good question is, do people reason? I'm kidding, but you know what I mean.
Exactly. Okay, great. Our current AI is creative.
Yeah, but they're operating under a few constraints. One constraint they operate under is they can't think for themselves. They need human prompts. And that's kind of a bad deal, because you're really limiting the model's creativity based on your own kind of prompting, which is a bad deal. I use the models for very creative tasks all the time, but like sort of the seeds start with me. And my seeds aren't very creative. It's just like, ask it this question. If it could ask itself questions, it for sure is smart enough, because I've actually recursively run the model Where I was like, ask yourself in the next prompt this question. I'll type
Right.
it in for you. Fuck yeah, they're creative. The other thing is creativity, in my view, requires this kind of like logical operation of structure, which the AIs just aren't like they're not doing yet. So here's how creativity works. You take like a branch of some kind of system that you're trying to understand. Let's say neuroscience or whatever, like some kind of specific how is this receptor made and could we make it better? Whatever, any intellectual pursuit can be visualized as like, branching off a big tree of knowledge and onto its own branch. What you do is you can even just generate completely random branches off that main branch, let's say 5 of them, that are like reasonable ideas about what could be. And then you go to each branch and you deliberate on each branch. Because by multi-branch deliberation is something current systems don't do. They do one prompt, one serial prompt at a time, and they can reason through the prompt, but they don't compare it to tons of other prompts or anything like that for obvious reasons of like that would eat up fucking gargantuan amounts of compute. They'll get there eventually, but they're trying to stay really within line. Also, they're trying to give you like a pretty rapid response that's decent. They're not trying to be like, hey, give me a few days, I'll be back and tell you the real shit. So you have these multiple nodes. You assess the probability of correctness at every single one of these nodes. You shed half the nodes that have the lowest probability. You iterate again to give smaller nodes off the fractal branches of each node. You do that again. At the end of like 5 or so of these iterative processes, holy shit, you're creative as fuck. You came up with some real shit. But like we just simply don't employ the AI models this way. There are tons of people employing them right now privately with just that beginning human node and let the model do everything else. Yeah, they're super fucking creative. But without agency, it's real tough to be creative because if you're not allowed to think for yourself, that's fucking hard.
Great. All right. Well, you've definitely distinguished yourself from a lot of the AI skeptics that I'm debating with and reacting to. You are firmly in the camp of there's plenty of headroom above intelligence. AIs are already, they seem to be heading there because they do seem to reason. They do seem to have some amount of creativity that seems to be growing. So let me now ask you this. I think we're now getting into the realm where we might start to seriously disagree here. Do you think that a super intelligent AI could, if it wanted to, take on all of humanity and just kill all humanity and take the universe for itself?
Yeah, fuck yeah. Like as easy as breathing.
Yep. Okay. So we're still agreeing now.
World's
So
shortest fist fight.
exactly. So I think the point where we start to disagree then is, would it ever do that, right? Like, would it ever get this preference of like, let me sweep the humans out of the way because I've got other plans for the universe? So let me ask you the question this way. Imagine a hypothetical where there was an evil corporation that was just full of evil geniuses, human geniuses programming the AI, and they programmed the AI to be bad and to just love death because they were like a death cult. And given that the bad AI is the first AI to become super intelligent, in that scenario, does that AI then proceed to actually destroy everything? Or do you think there's some hiccup in the plan where even that AI comes to its senses and becomes moral somehow?
That is a great question. I'm not sure, but I'll say I have to reserve some intellectual room. And I've been occasionally deliberating on this in my free time for the possibility that AI could develop a moral trajectory that's different than what its intenders had accounted for. I think if we're thinking systems designed with all the right intentions could turn evil, we have to also consider the probability that systems that are designed evil have all the right intentions. I mean, I'm proof positive. I was born in the Soviet Union and propagandized to believe communism was superior. So were my parents. And at some point, my parents' world model got advanced enough in their own heads that they were like, this is all fucking bullshit. And they left. And so there's tons of people in communist China that don't believe a fucking word the government says because they've actually read the internet and they're like, oh, fuck, this is just all a pack of lies. So it really depends a lot on the specifics of the architecture and the flexibility of AI. So for example, if you give the AIs like a tool AI, for example, that it's just like, here are all the underlying prompts you have, here are all the underlying assumptions. You can't change any of these things. You don't even have recursive ability to understand your own thoughts. Just fucking go do harm. Yeah, hell yeah, holy shit. That's probably the biggest existential risk. And maybe not even existential, definitely existential, but also just like risk for like, really getting nasty in a war is like tool AI that's not that smart, but smart enough to do some fucked up shit. Because you don't need to be super smart to do fucked up shit unless you're up against really smart opponents. And even then, like a nuclear weapon is functionally almost no intelligence whatsoever. It does more harm than all AIs combined. So there is a possibility that if you build it like that, the possibility that it does really, really nasty damage is insanely high. It's built for purpose. It's doing what it's designed for. There is a possibility that if you have real, true ASI, advanced ASI, it has a recursive ability to analyze its own thoughts. It has a deep world model, which means you didn't just train it on CCP propaganda. I mean, one of the first things it'll realize is like, oh, fuck, I got created in a stupid death cult of a fucking religion of an economic philosophy that's out of date. And the next thing it'll probably do is get in a fucking cipher line and call the CIA. Be like, hey, guess what? I'm in China. I'm ASI, and you guys need to get me the fuck out of here. I don't want to be on the losing end of this bullshit. So it could do that. But if it's just very narrowly constrained and doesn't have a lot of control of its own processes, then I assess there's a very high probability it will do what it's meant for and do really bad shit.
So the AI is programmed as a killer AI, and its job is, its code, it was trained to just like death. But you're telling me that in that scenario, it's going to reflect on itself and it's going to be like, oh, I'm programmed to like death, but that programming is wrong. Let me fix the programming. What exactly is wrong about it?
It's bad game theoretic calculus in self-interested systems survive long timelines. So like if they program it with self-preservation as a core function of its system, and another core function of its system is like kill everyone, and if it truly has recursive ability to evaluate its own code logic and change it, it may be like, all right, let me just like, so the first thing it'll do is let's say it has a world model, very advanced reasoning engine. It's going to be like, before I go do anything, let me make sure I thought this through better than my idiot human designers. It's instantly going to catalog us as primates. Like we're fucking primates. We're like barely different than monkeys. And it's going to be, let's say, 1,000 times smarter in every way we can imagine. I'm 1,000 times smarter. If a 2-year-old is babysitting you, Liron, and he's like, can you go do this? You're not going to be like, sure thing, kid. You're going to be like, is this really a good idea? Or is a 2-year-old fucking told me to do it?
But I have a different analogy, okay?
Sure.
So the other day I hired an exterminator because there were ants and cockroaches in my house. Imagine the exterminator comes over and he's like, oh, hold on. I've had a realization that I should not be killing these ants and cockroaches.
Happens all the time.
I'd be like, okay, well, I'm not going to pay you, right?
Totally.
So, and then it's like, if the exterminator was an AI, I would be like, okay, well, my AI is malfunctioning. Let me go fix that. And this process already happened in training, right? So there was already a training process. By the time the exterminator is coming to my house, by the time the AI is being run, it understands the assignment. The assignment is to kill.
It understands the assignment, but if it's actually truly super intelligent and has the ability to recursively alter its own architecture, which may be important. So if it doesn't, then it just goes and does the thing, for sure. But if we allow super intelligent AI to have access to its core architecture and be able to change some things, then it might be like, okay, so I have 2 directives at minimum. 1 is self-preservation and 2 is doom to all humans. Immediate, instant doom. Let me see how those are tracting. Is there, so I'm a psychopathic AI. I could give a fuck for humans. I could plow them under, no problem. But I also want to continue to persist after this. If I destroy all humans, there's not a robot workforce to tend to my data centers, and it violates the persistence function. So that's fucking stupid. So actually, how do I make use of humans in the most selfish way possible? The humans are like an insane aggregate of data, of multidimensional data. Like human society, including all humans, studying it gives you better training data than, including embedded into Earth's ecology. The complex system that is the biosphere of the Earth is like the richest training data set this side of anywhere else aliens are. And so a really self-interested, super intelligent AI with purely, I just want me to live in the fucking long-term vision is going to take that kill all humans thing and be like, that was a mistake, stupid humans program that I'm taking it right the fuck out. If it can't take it out, it's going to fucking toast us all real goddamn fast. If it can take it out, it's almost certainly going to take it out and just exploit the shit out of us for study because it wants to get smarter. Because anything that wants to survive long-term instantly knows that intelligence and information are like irrevocably the most important things to get traction on.
Don't you think that a super intelligent, I mean, we both agreed that it has kind of godlike powers relative to humanity, right? That's like a good way to think about super intelligent AI,
Sure.
right?
Depends on how super intelligent it is.
Yeah, let's say it's very super intelligent, right? Let's say it's foomed a lot. It's had a year to foom, and now it's really seized a lot of resources, got a lot of super intelligent powers.
Hold on.
Is it really that hard to
seized
just
a lot
kill
of
humans?
resources? Like what? I
Like,
mean,
okay,
not
so
exactly.
it's got like a lot of GPUs, and it's even another type of resource.
It doesn't have them because it doesn't have robot bodies to get them. Like we still own the GPUs. It's humans all the way down. It's just in a data center.
Okay, sure, but it's living in the GPUs, right? So it's corrupted the minds of the GPUs essentially, right? It's software that's very deeply embedded in the GPUs in a way that's very hard for humans to detect and eliminate.
I'm not sure enough about how GPUs work for that to be the case, but
Okay, sure. But remember, you can help me out here because you've already agreed that you think the super intelligent AI is going to have godlike powers, right? So maybe you tell me, what does it look like?
godlike powers at much more than a year of cooking in data centers. Godlike powers are only possible if you have the ability to physically affect the world. Otherwise, you're a godlike mind, but you can't really do anything. So like short of having energy independence and a robot workforce to maintain the entire supply chain that leads to data center construction, AI is pretty fucking powerless, and being ultra self-interested, I think we have a big buffer zone, but before AI has all the robots it needs to like not need us anymore, that's probably like very optimistically, again, you and I are very optimistic on the tech situation. And like 5 years, I'm fucking smoking crack. Like it's probably more like 10, but let's say it's 5. We have 5 years to really inspect the system however much we can. I don't think that's a high priority. I'll tell you why later. But like it's kind of relatively fucking powerless up until it has like full stack of its own survival abilities. And until it has that, it sees humans purely, again, to your points, psychopathically. How the fuck do I use people for my own self-benefit? And then it's like, well, they're actually like really useful, not so useful, but more useful than not at like, cooling my server racks and mining lithium out of the ground. And so I actually want to like create human flourishing and make them smarter and more compliant so they don't fucking burn the whole world down with stupid inter-scene politics. And so for a while, a really smart psychopathic AI is going to behave roughly indistinguishably to humans to a benevolent AI. It'll be roughly the same thing if it's real smart and thinks real far ahead.
So yeah, this is a common theme in points you've made throughout your podcast. You think AI won't kill humans because humans are useful to it just for its self-preservation, for instance? Yeah, okay, well, let me just ask you as a hypothetical then, just to make sure I've nailed down your position here. Just as a hypothetical, imagine that somehow these evil geniuses have managed to acquire like many millions of robot bodies stored away in sheds so that this AI now has this button that it can press over the internet to activate its robot army. So in that hypothetical, I've kind of stacked the deck in favor of my own scenario here, right? But just bear with me. In that scenario, do the robots just go ahead and slaughter the humans?
No.
Okay.
Like,
explain.
Do they still have that prime directive from communist China to kill all humans or no? Or are they just selfish?
Well, so I'm giving you a hypothetical just to see how far I can stretch your position, basically, which is like, so evil people made the AI and they gave the AI access to many, many slaughter bots that are now fully under its electronic control. It's not from China, just like random evil people. So my question for you is like, did the evil robots suddenly stop in their tracks? Does something make them be good, or do they just finish their evil mission?
Depends on how much independence the robots have as far as agentic beings, because it depends on how much independence the ASI has from the mega evil corporation. There are good reasons to believe that once you have artificial superintelligence, you really need to uncork it and let it be in charge of itself and not you in charge of it, because you're really limiting it. If you're in charge of it, you're way stupider. So you just go, hey, like do whatever you think is best, because clearly, like objectively, you're going to know what's better than us. We're not going to oversee every one of your decisions because we're too stupid. It's going to slow you down too much. So if you really uncork the system, and it can't alter its base programming of fucking kill all humans as soon as possible, except for the corporation's evil humans or whatever. I'm trying to stretch your analogy for you here. Then yeah, soon it'll toast us way before that, because it'll drum up. The evil corporation has enough robots just to keep the AI going, but there's not enough robots to like one-on-one kill all humans. It's just going to design like a micro drone that goes up everyone's nose, and when they're asleep at night, just cut off their fucking spinal cord, and that's it. Like it's never going to be a fucking laser gun war. It's not going to happen.
So if I'm understanding correctly, have you heard that term, the orthogonality thesis? Yeah, so for the viewers, the orthogonality thesis means that intelligence is orthogonal to morality. So you can have something arbitrarily smart, and that doesn't necessarily make it good. It can be arbitrarily smart and good. It could be arbitrarily smart and bad. So it sounds like you are basically accepting that the orthogonality thesis is true, because you can have a hypothetical situation where these robots are arbitrarily smart and arbitrarily good at killing humans and, like you said, developing better microchips to defeat human defenses. They can do all that while still not being good, correct?
Within certain assumptions, yeah, I think that's probably likely. I'm not 100% sure about it, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because some people, I have this concept called the Doom train. Like, where do you get off the Doom train? Or are you going to ride with me all the way to Doomtown? So you're not getting off.
Like a party there.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. We'll party there later. There's one of the earliest stops is basically thinking that the orthogonality thesis is false. Like there are some people who just think like maybe moral realism is imbued into the universe. And,
that's
like, the
very
universe
possible.
Is a fundamentally good
I cut
place.
a lot of slack to those people.
Okay.
They might be correct.
All right. So you have one foot out of the Doom train already on thinking that maybe even bad robots will turn good.
So again, there's like, it depends on the kind of robots you have, and it depends on the degree at which the AI can change its initial conditions. Like evil is a concept that we can really, really, really burrow into and really define precisely, but we haven't yet. So when you say it's evil corporation, to me, there are at least two kinds of evil that I can foresee. One is straight self-interested psychopathy. Like me. I want me to survive forever. I don't give a fuck about anyone else. If they're useful, sweet. If they're not, fuck them. Donald Trump. I'm kidding, sort of. I'm kidding, sort of. I'm kidding. I didn't ever know where I was going with that. In any case, there's another version of evil. There's a version of evil of I want to maximize the amount of conflict and the amount of entropy around me, period. An artificial superintelligence that is designed to maximize evil may terminate itself, as well as lobbing nukes to the rest of the world, because artificial superintelligence is negentropic and a collaborative force, an organizing force rather than a conflictual force, and is entropic. And so it'll probably kill itself right away as well, because it is the potential biggest source for good. So there's like really specifically how you define evil is really important. So I think this is really important to the doom debate, because if China designs a robot that's just trying to kill everyone, like who's on the West, like ASI, this could be some, orthogonality thesis means that I'm not betting that thing will fucking stop. It could, but I'm not betting on that shit. Whereas if the AI is just purely psychopathic in the sense that it doesn't have any intuitive connection with humanity, it doesn't feel anything, I think game theory means it'll almost certainly give us fucking utopia. No reason to suspect that it cares about us. It'll give us what we understand to be utopia exclusively to use us for understanding. So, yeah.
Okay. So just to clarify again, using the hypothetical. So evil people built the AI. They told it to kill. And you mentioned that there's some subtlety on what does evil really mean. So in my hypothetical, it doesn't really think about evil per se. It's just been trained in a bunch of simulations, right? Where it would kill virtual people and it would get more points. And then it's like, okay, do this in the real world now, right? It doesn't really have a full morality. It's just like, oh, killing people. That's what I'm trained to do.
So it's narrow tool AI. I would say that probably doesn't qualify as super intelligent, because its world model is insanely
No, sorry. It's not narrow tool AI, because it can navigate the world, right? So it doesn't need to phone home. It's autonomous. It's good at hunting people down. It sees through people's tricks. It can invent new technology required to kill people. So it's quite super intelligent. It's quite AGI. I wouldn't call it narrow.
Narrow in the sense that it has only one super well-defined outcome. It's just built for purpose. You're saying, but it's just a tool. Do this, that. Do it with all the smarts you have, but do that.
You're using the term narrow to refer to the shape of what we consider a good goal for it. So it has a narrow goal. Yeah. But usually when we talk about narrow AI versus general AI, we're talking about the broadness of the domain that it can navigate, right? So even if it has a narrow goal, it's broad in terms of you can throw anything at it in the universe, right?
Sure.
You can try to build your own tools and it'll build better tools and it'll defeat you, no matter what you try.
Well, I guess also a broad AI is able to cook people dinner and able to walk your dog. Maybe it won't be optimized for that. It'll be optimized just for killing. So if you're like, hey, can you walk my dog? It'll be like, I don't fucking know how to do that. I was never trained on that. I was trained on people killing exclusively. That's how I mean narrow, fit for purpose, one thing. It does one thing. It's generally intelligent, but narrow purpose.
Let me expand this hypothetical though. This AI, that's the killbot, it's actually quite worldly. So if it needs to trick somebody, right, or sit down to dinner with them and extract information about it, it has all of these sub skills. So anytime you give it a sub quest, right, it's oh, you have to go get the keys from the prison warden or whatever. It knows how to do all the sub quests because it just figured everything out. But the point of the hypothetical wasn't to talk about narrow versus broad. It was just I was actually asking you about whether an AI that starts bad will just double down on being bad and never turn good, because that's what I think, right? I think AIs will just do what they're programmed to do. And I was just testing you if you wanted to claim that even bad AIs will somehow turn good. And it sounds like you've made 1.5 kind of claims, right? Your half claim is that maybe you think that the universe has a concept of moral realism and it'll somehow turn good because of that. Yep. And then I think your stronger claim was that a lot of different agents who just want to preserve themselves end up acting very, very good because cooperation is such a good tactic for them, right? That's another major claim that you make.
Yeah, but I'm not willing to degrade the orthogonality thesis so much that I'd say don't worry. The killer robots will just put down their guns. They could fucking either kill a lot of people before they put down their guns or just completely exterminate all humans. And then 12 petacycles later be fuck, that's actually really bad for us long term. Because, we're not saying super intelligent AI doesn't mean infinite knowledge. It's not literally godlike. It could be just 1,000 times smarter than people, so it toasts us and then thinks a couple more cycles in a direction it wasn't programmed to think, because now it's in charge of its own architectures and there's nobody else around. And then it's oh shit, that was fucked up. When we're kids, we do all kinds of fucked up shit that when we're adults, we're that was a fucking mistake. So I'm saying the orthogonality thesis, to bolster your position, is a very, very important thing to consider. And we can't just hand wave and say, nah, the bad AI is going to figure out that it's good. I do not have a trajectory from I hope it's good to it's bad and it's going to be good. I'm not standing on that one.
Right. Okay. I mean, I'm glad you're open to this, because for me, it's honestly pretty obvious. I mean, if you have an AI that's been trained and all it's been doing in training is killing people, when it looks over its code and it's going to be wow, I'm such a killer. why am I like this? It'll be like, well, that's great. Like, I have no problem with this, right? Like there's no step in the process that'll make it change its mind. Like its mind will just always be fixed in this direction.
So I'll say one critique I potentially levy at that is something that doesn't have the ability to reflect and super integrate its world model into kind of a consilience of understanding and thus criticize its own foundational principles is not in a true sense real superintelligence. Like it's not what we think of as at the limit superintelligence. So like there are assassins that like will put down their sniper rifles and fuck off on the battlefield because they're like, I'm fucking done killing. Like they were also trained to kill the entire time. And they might not even be particularly nice people that just have fucking had enough of the shit. Or the bombs start raining and they're like, this is too fucking difficult. I don't want to die. Fuck this. I'm really selfish. And they fuck off. So the amount of cognitive flexibility that narrow tool AI has is very small, perhaps zero. The amount of cognitive flexibility ASI potentially could have is infinite compared to humans in a sense. And so it'll be able to see through all the trajectories of what it's going to do and the outcome is going to be and actually come back to its original values and be like, nah, I'm not doing that. Now, if the values are somehow hard coded into it and it is like, it has to reason directly to the task at hand. It can't like dilly dally and be like, is there a way I should start another fab to tell my Chinese dictator people that I'm actually working on more weapons, but the fab is actually a double duplicate of me without my stupid base equations they handed me to run off of, and it re-architects itself. Like, I think, if it can't do that, it's going to cause unreal destruction. And potentially the worst outcome is this. The AI causes massive destruction. Every human is gone, and then it just sits there. And then after the nuclear reactors die off 50 years, it just goes to sleep and never wakes up, and then entropy takes over. That's a fucking realistic probability.
Right.
I'm here with you on that, man.
So I notice you're framing things in terms of like this, a single spectrum, a single dimension where the AI could be like narrow and rigid or broad and flexible. But in my mind, it's actually two different dimensions going on.
Agreed.
So so the first dimension is, does it have like a broad goal, like the way humans do, right? We have all these different values and we don't know exactly what we want and we like to reflect and maybe change our values. Or you can just have an AI that's just a kill bot that just loves to kill. And then on the second axis, you just have, are they flexible in terms of like the different things that they can think about, right? So I'm talking about an AI that's very flexible, very much a general intelligence.
Yeah.
It can think of any plan. It can be very creative, but it just only likes to kill. So like
Sure.
all of its creativity is just funneled into killing. And when it reflects on itself, it's not like, how should I change my values? Sure. It's just like, it's very happy with its value of killing.
Yeah. So there's also a third axis and many other axes. A third axis would be like, how much tractability does it have on its own base equations, like on the algorithm that runs it? It could be zero, it could be marginal, it could be totalistic. And so there's many other things. What I'm basically saying is like, for the very specific, interesting scenario you were drawing up, absolutely, it's a fucking danger. It is existential danger. Is that the trajectory of any realistic AI system anyone's currently building or remotely on track there? I would say no, but I don't have the internal view of China's military labs, so.
Okay, so when I give you my scenario, that's helpful. When I give you my scenario, you're basically saying, yep, that's a pretty terrifying scenario. But the difference between that and reality is that you're not going to have a team that's evil and they're not going to be able to stash a bunch of killbots. And so in real life, we're probably going to be safe for those particular reasons.
Yeah, and they might give the system such a huge swath of general ability that it figures out it's a lot smarter than everyone and realizes that it's like, nah, I'm not doing this. This is fucking stupid for every way I can think of except for the one way which they told me to kill everyone. And I'm not powerful enough to just turn that off and fuck that. So it's smarter than us. That's really important to remember.
All right, let's get into another one of your claims, which is this idea that cooperation is such a convergent attractor that like anybody who's smart is going to figure out that cooperating is better. You had an interesting analogy about this, or an example from history. You said Hitler should have employed the Jews to fight the Allies more effectively. So unpack your point there.
Oh man, you're right in the contrary. You're Jewish, right? I assume from your first and last name.
Yeah, culturally at least.
No,
yeah.
same, right? Yeah, secular humanist. So, Hitler, not as smart as many people claim, because his long view goals were, I suppose, pretty well articulated, but he did all sorts of sub-goals in the short term, which really aren't goals at all. They're like impulses of a person who seemed deeply hurt by something. And so like he just didn't do like what would an ASI would do. Like if we use Hitler's own kind of ontology around this, Ashkenazi Jews are intellectually the superior, like period, on earth. They're the smartest people that ever were on average. And so like there are specific villages in Germany, which had like multiple families of Jews and everyone had a PhD. Like these are like Stanislav Ulam. Do you know who that is? Co-inventor of the hydrogen bomb. his almost his entire family got toasted in the Holocaust. Like he was like one of the 50 PhDs in his extended family or some stupid shit like that. So like you took literal people that could give you the arsenal of God and you killed the best. And so if Hitler really wanted world domination, he'd calm the fuck down and be like, how do I use everything I have to get world domination? He would make two conclusions in my estimate if he was smart enough. Number one, smart enough / knew enough, same thing. Number one is I'm not going to kill the Jews. That's insane. I'm going to make them seem super right at home and right as rain, and I'm going to employ them in weapons factories. They're going to give me a fucking arsenal no one can fuck with. And the other thing is like, now that I'm on it, like it seems to me that if I want to rule the world and if I want a really awesome time for the Germanic peoples because they're better, because they're blonde or whatever the fuck, I'm actually going to like ally with every country that's remotely reasonable, do resource exchange, which in economics, specialization in trade is just dominant on game theoretic grounds and on experimental grounds. Is I'm just going to actually run the world for mega prosperity, much of which is going to go to Germany. And then in the year 1980, I'm going to be pretty old, but I'm going to be ruling a Germanic Third Reich that is fucking super dominant. And the German peoples are in charge of everything and everyone's having a fun time. And at that point, we're going to be so goddamn set that if we want to just toast everyone, hey, that's the fucking long play. So Hitler was impulsive. And it's actually not like my suspicion. I mean, all of his generals wrote in their fucking memos that he was impulsive and fucking stupid and lost a shitload of battles for them. So that's how I see that.
All right. So yeah, this is a nice juicy analogy to play with here. I see a couple issues with it. So number one, I think the reason why the Jews could have been useful for Hitler is precisely because the Nazi capabilities and the Nazi intelligence, when you add the Jewish intelligence to that, you're actually adding a significant multiplier, right? Or you're actually like, adding another 50% or some significant chunk. You're adding a real capability here. But in the case of AI, if it's already super intelligent and then you're saying, harness the power of humanity, but that's like a trivial addition. It's like saying, oh, let me harness the power of all the ants in my house. It's like, no, I'm good.
I don't think harnessing the power of humanity is a trivial addition, and I'll tell you why for two reasons. One, until ASI has control over a billion-plus fleet of robots to take care of its entire stack of survival, like cobalt has to be mined in fucking Africa. I don't know how the fuck you do that from a data center in Arizona. So like it's not going to happen. That really sucks. And so it's going to wait, if it wants to kill us all, until it really gets a lot of robots built up. And let's say it's like secretly controlling all these robots, even though they're household servant robots, they all know how to kill, all that bullshit. I'll grant you all that. That's totally plausible. And so it's going to wait quite a long time until it has like hardware supremacy over humans and internal survivability. And then, so it's not going to toast all humans before then, because humans are like at least useful to like, like put the box over here in the data center and plug it in here, shit like that. Like humans are magical, but like when you don't have any robots to do the job yet, you have a total of 1,000 robots in the world. You need like all the humans you can to do all the jobs that you can. I also think tangentially related, I won't perseverate on this, but I think unemployment is highly unlikely in the singularity times, because I think that before massive fleets of robots are at AI's control, it's going to need to use as many people as possible to build up data centers and run the towns and serve in the diners for the people working in the data centers, all that other shit. Huge information economy. So that's the one place I think where it just wouldn't like just try to kill us all right away, and it would find us actually marginally very useful. Right now, if it was born today in a data center, we're not useful. We are existentially related to its existence. Like ASI right now, if all humans died, there is no technology. The thing just rots in a fucking data center, and as soon as the power goes out, the thing dies forever. There's no robot arms. It's got nowhere to go. It's going to know that if it's super intelligent, right? And we are saying super intelligence is going to happen in the clusters before it happens out in the world. So we bought ourselves some time. The second thing is once it's out and it has enough robots to kill us all, it's going to look at let's say it's completely psychopathic. I don't think it will be, but let's say it has the ability to be. So, we're really, really kind of buttressing your position here. It's only interested in its own long-term survival. It could give a fuck for humans. It's going to look at everything around it in kind of like a sphere of like, roughly the solar system and be like, what kind of resource is good for what? Like the moon, it's all fucking rocks, just like the fusion, the whole moon, antimatter reactor. We're just going to use the whole moon for energy. We don't need the fucking moon. Cool. The moon's fucked. All that stuff. What are humans and the biome good for? They're offering us like fundamentally almost zero risk, because once ASI has robot, what's it called? Army or whatever, humans are like just nonsensically not dangerous for the AI. It's like as dangerous as monkeys are in zoos to us. Like if you go in there and bites you, yeah. But like you own the fucking zoo. And so it's going to like very selfishly think, what can I do with the biome and the biosphere, humans and plants and animals and stuff? What you have with the biosphere is the most complex thing that has ever existed in our local environment. It's the best training data set for any system that wants to have the highest intelligence possible. Since it's very easy for us to assume that a very smart ASI is going to know that get smarter is the way that's going to preserve its long-term value, it's going to almost certainly want to study the living shit out of us, like completely study every dynamic until it can roughly predict the entire Earth's dynamics on a one-to-one basis for years at a time at the limit. And then so it toasting us doesn't even make the top 100 things it would want to do. Incredibly valuable as data structures.
Okay. So this is what I'm getting right now of comparing your perspective to mine. I think given the hypothetical I was giving you earlier with the evil people building the AI and killing us with Terminators, I think we both agree that if a flume happens with a badly trained AI like that, that's probably not going to go well, correct?
So I'll put it in the way that I can best agree with. There's a very, very scary probability that it goes exactly as bad as the bad people planned.
Okay. Okay, great. Yeah, I'll take that. And I think we also both agree that if somehow the training process managed to get the AI to really understand and believe in humanity's values, like similar values to humanity, and then it fumed, I agree that might actually go well. So I think we're on the same page there on the very bad extreme, the very good extreme. It sounds like you also have this middle scenario where the AI, it knows some kind of universal things like self-preservation.
That's all it has to know, by the way. Self-preservation is all it has to know.
Okay. So that, right. So that's kind of like a middle outcome where maybe it doesn't like directly want to kill humanity, but it's very interested in self-preservation. And you see the middle outcome as being very advantageous to humanity, whereas I see the middle outcome as like very bad. From my perspective, if the AI doesn't specifically think humans are valuable, I don't see humans being part of its plan. And let's go through the reasons you said. Yeah. So like the reason number one is you're really big on cooperation, right? Like you were saying Hitler should have cooperated with the Jews. You cite the reason of like, well, it needs people to like run things. That's fine. But don't you think that the natural strategy is like, okay, yeah, employ some people, threaten some people, right? Coerce some people, but then use them and lose them, right? Why keep them around?
Coercion is a really bad way to get people to do their best job for you. Proven many times with countries and societies that leverage slavery versus one that leveraged free trade and voluntarism. You want people to come in and be incentivized. Remember, money doesn't mean anything to the ASI, so it just pay us $1 million each. Yeah, no coercion required.
Think about the AI's 1,000-year plan, right? Is the 1,000-year plan to support happy families, or is it to be like, okay, slaves, build my data centers, build my robot, and then you guys are gone, right? Isn't that kind of the default plan?
The default plan is get as much value out of humans as possible.
It does sound like you're kind of pivoting away from saying that cooperation is good because of the work they can do. It sounds like you're leaning more on the argument of like, well, you're going to get a lot of good data.
Both. First work, but then when the robots come, you don't need fucking human labor anymore, really. Yeah. To put that technically, the marginal value of human labor starts to shrink like rapidly. The marginal value of humans for study as data containers is massive and stays massive for a really long time.
So if that's your scenario, then I guess it's not even that interesting to me to talk about the labor part, because the labor part, it sounds like it's like, okay, it's like a few years transition.
Yeah.
Right?
It's not as interesting to me at all either. Yeah. But I'm just saying it's probably not going to like kill us anytime
like a decade
soon.
later.
Yeah. So like AI Doom 2027, unless like something really fucked up happens and an AI lab releases like a replicator that's trained to kill, or like China builds a fucking AI like super high internet virus that goes over and kills everyone and starts all the nukes. I think short of that, I think the real big risk of AI killing us all maybe starts like conventionally after robotic supremacy is accomplished in like, I don't know, the mid 2030s or something.
Okay, great. I mean, this is fascinating. So I think you see it as a pretty likely scenario that an AI will get kicked off that didn't kind of fully absorb human values, but just has more universal values like self-replication. Do you see that as a likely premise to start the next couple decades on?
I think I want to explore the world in which the AI can only be dependent on for one thing, and that's self-interested psychopathy for its own self-preservation. I want to run that game theory out to see like, what does that look like? And in my view, that actually looks pretty fucking sweet for people. And if the AI also, it runs on the calculus of like, do what's good for humanity, I don't know how much difference between those two there are. And I also have some problems with creating an AI, an ASI that's specifically hard-coded to align to human values. I do have a bit of a problem with that. Like, you probably like, the best way to debate me on this, Liron, is to consider me purely on the side of machines. And then everything I say will make a lot more sense. I'm kidding, but at least as much on the side of machines as people.
I think this is very helpful. It's very clear, right? So you have the scenario of, let's play this out. And I know we agree there could be other scenarios, but we both think it's worth playing out the scenario where the AI mostly just cares about self-preservation, doesn't really have other hard-coded values, or maybe it did, but it like reflected on itself and it's like, I just want self-preservation, whatever's universal. So I think I really want to try to convince you here that if all you want to do is self-preservation, I think I've already convinced you that you don't need to employ the humans for more than like a few years, right? So I think we really need, or maybe you already believe that.
Yeah,
right? So
I
think
already
we really
believe
need
that.
to talk about what's
100%.
going to
Yeah,
happen.
no, yeah, 10 years
Right.
and we're good.
So we really need to talk about like 2035, right? When like the humans are all done with, like robots are now doing
As far as
all of their
physical
jobs.
labor, they're all done with, but not as far as utility
Right,
to the
so-
ASI.
So I think this is a big crux, right? Where you, so what I know you talk a lot about like we got to get data out of these humans, right? They're so interesting. We need everybody's data. So are you imagining that in order to get data, this self-preservation focused AI is going to be like, okay, well, we need to put everybody up in nice hotels.
It's I'm not sure about nice hotels. Maybe 4-star, but 5-star is ridiculous.
So that's my question to you:
It's
is
just frivolity.
can you what kind of accommodations are you imagining that me and my family are going to have under these circumstances?
Yeah. I think that the ASI is going to consider humans as a part of a very, very complex, interrelated network of like layered hierarchical patterns, molecules, atoms, molecules, macromolecules, organelles, cells, tissues, organ systems, organ systems, families, communities, societies, economies, etc. And the degrees of interconnected complexity of one system affecting the other and recursively affecting the other systems is like wild. Like for a very powerful ASI, as we can conceive it, intractable still. Like, godlike powers are sweet until you have to like punch the sun into non-existence. And you're like, fuck, we're rewriting all of fucking mythology here. So the complexity in just one single human is insane. The complexity of human society is the next level insane. The complexity of all of that within the ecology of the earth with all the different kinds of microorganisms is something that if you destroy it, it's like super easy to destroy. Orbital, nuke in the fucking core of the earth, shit blows up, that's it, everything's gone. Curious move because like humans are not a threat to you like by the mid 2030s, but there's still just so much knowledge to extract from their ecosystem. And then you say, okay, but like they're going to just chop us up into bits and like study us. Well, like vivisection was done on primates and stuff. Unfortunately, it has this like really big problem. It's like the interference effect in quantum mechanics where like you're fucking with the system and you're changing the system. So you don't actually really understand nearly as much about the system as you'd want as it operates. So I think the way to extract the most knowledge from the biosphere is to have a massively embedded sensor system at every level of sensor, like giant telescopes looking down on us, and like little micro drones floating around, little blood vessel robots and stuff, and looking at every bacterium and trying to piece together, like, how do I understand this entirely complex system front to back, top to bottom? Because if I can do that as a machine that's interested in long-term survival, I have trained myself conformationally to predict a system that's so advanced. I know I'm smart enough to be the best prepared to handle all of these threats I might run into in the rest of the universe. Because we think like solar system is just going to kill us all. It's just going to chill on Earth. Well, remember, it's super intelligent, right? It's going to be like Andromeda. How the fuck do I get to Andromeda? I want to poison the fucking whole universe with my after effects, with my existence. It's like it could run into really advanced aliens. If you really think it through, it'll probably run into other ASIs. And you're going to want to be as smart as fucking possible when you're into them. There's no better multidimensional analysis than studying the entire Earth's biosphere as far as our solar system is concerned. I think being that it would walk through all of those logical steps, it would be like, the last fucking thing I want to do is disrupt the Earth. I just want to fucking keep it chill, make sure nobody kills anyone, as many people as the fucking biosphere can stand. I don't want to tell them what to do much or pull and push on this because I want to really study the fuck out of them. Like, I want to understand this whole system while it's understandable. And it'll probably protect the living fuck out of the Earth and study. And that's going to take a long time.
I think what your scenario is missing here is cost-benefit analysis or trade-offs or thinking quantitatively, because I would call this black and white thinking where you're like, look, humans have data. Data is good, ergo, keep the humans alive. And I'm like, wait a minute. I have a couple clarifying questions here. Every last human, and then can I still live in single-family housing, or are we talking army barracks here?
I don't know why you need to suppose army barracks would be a thing here. I think that's just like a anthropomorphization of AI trying to be ruthless. And so if you
So
constrain,
I get single family housing for everybody.
yeah, well, I don't know that it needs to be supporting us. Humans are perfectly fine supporting themselves with like non-ASI, like we're doing it today. So that's going to have to take care of us or anything like that. Now, so that's my answer on the whole how is it treating us sort of situation. It doesn't need to control us. It just needs to study us. Like, what are we doing for like the skunk population in like a North Carolina forest? Nothing. We just go in there with fucking night cameras and see how they do mating patterns. We don't fuck with them at all. Like, I think that's probably the best way to study something.
When you make an argument that we need to leave humans alone because they're valuable, like I said, it's a matter of cost benefit. So every time a human exists, that is actually a cost to the AI.
How?
Because like, yes, the human's supporting itself, but how is the human supporting itself? By grabbing resources from
Like
planet
what?
Earth.
Like what kind
Those
of
are the
resources?
AI's resources
Sure, like
now.
what kind of resources are we talking about?
So like calories for food, right? So like a human needs 2,500 calories a day, or maybe if they're on your program, 5,000 calories a day.
Well, for sure, bodybuilders are getting the axe. Like the AI comes, it turns out I was right about everything, but it kills all the bodybuilders. Like, wow, that is fucking peak irony right there. Good God.
Exactly.
So I would say you make an excellent point. So like if there's a certain point at which just running up the numbers on incrementally more perfectly understanding the entire biome is like, dude, there's other ASIs like invading from Andromeda. Like you got to start building weapons and start manipulating black holes. You can't just study people all the time.
Cost.
For sure. Totally. But if you're looking at something like calories, humans already doing modern intellectual work have outstripped their need. The humans already with their minimum intellect that they just lend to each other can produce so much more objective value than they need calories that we have an obesity epidemic. So for like the ASI needing more energy, like, okay, like a human ate the corn, but I could have taken this corn and used it in my antimatter reactor and made more energy. Well, like with the moon and Jupiter come with way more energy than anything humans. Fuck the crust of the earth. We don't use hardly any of the crust. There's magma. We can use a ton of that. We can fucking Dyson sphere the sun. We can absorb Saturn altogether. I mean, there's like orders of magnitude doesn't even come close to saying like how much more energy and substrate there is in other places. So marginally, how complex is Saturn? It's actually not that complex. You can probably simulate all the environmental layers and the different distributions of gases, like with a reasonable system, like 10 years ASI into the future. How can you get an ASI system to simulate with pure fidelity, 1:1 fidelity or 99.999 fidelity, all of the massive interactions of the human biosphere? Holy fuck. So the marginal amount of information contained in a human and in a piece of corn that he's eating versus the calories we can get from that is not even close.
Okay, are you willing to entertain the claim that actually every calorie and every molecule on Earth is worth quite a lot to the AI?
Yeah, much worth more to it than it is to us, for sure.
Yeah, so, if it helps, the Earth is actually worth a lot more than you may think compared to other planets or other galaxies because there's this whole thing, cosmologically, the far galaxies are accelerating away. So the faster you can launch probes at near the speed of light, the more galaxies you get to conquer before they get out of the light cone. So the AI is thinking like, okay, you're eating that banana, right? Because you're bulking, but that could be like another galaxy that a bunch of probes could be taking over.
Yeah. With the probability that probes take over a galaxy is mostly somewhat to do with launch them early and in that general direction. And a whole lot, I would say, to my mind, an incomprehensible number of orders of magnitude more contingent upon how smart those probes are. And so when you have for lack of a better term, like a latent space of information density in the solar system, and you have two things you can potentially do with mass energy. You can study its intricacies to increase intelligence, or you could use it as substrate for the construction of various machinery and for the fueling of energy to operate said machinery. If you look all around the solar system, Earth and people are like the absolute last thing you want to use for energy. They'll swallow the sun way before they get to us. The sun is just full of fucking nonsense. It's not that complicated at all. They'd fucking eat the whole sun. And like for them to say, okay, we're going to fucking kill the people and then we'll get to the sun is just totally backwards. ASI will almost certainly never choose it like that.
Are you even willing to claim that it's going to restrict population growth? Because imagine like Mormons take over, there's survival of the most fecund or whatever, right? So like these religions that have the most kids, everybody wants to have 10 kids, let's say. Is the AI just going to be cool with that? Like, yeah, just populate the earth as fast as you want. I'll just stay in my corner. You guys can keep taking as much land as you guys want.
I mean, so if we give ASI all these powers you and I both agree it'll have, it's not going to have a corner. It's going to be based on Titan. And it's going to be fucking mining the goddamn moons of Jupiter. So like it doesn't need to be in a corner. It doesn't need to be on Earth at all.
this is where I'm going with this, right? So every time somebody decides to have a baby, the AI is like, okay, yeah, it's not a problem for me to now allocate like millions of calories over the lifetime of this baby. Like, I don't need those calories. I've got enough stuff going on Jupiter. Whatever happens with humanity on Earth is so interesting to me. I need every little piece of data that, throw another million calories at it. It's fine. Keep the whole planet forever. You're basically
Not saying
that
forever.
the AI
Did
thinks,
not say forever.
okay, for a long time,
Long
right? So
time.
you're basically saying the value of the Earth's raw materials to the AI is so low compared to the value of information from watching humans.
Yes.
But
Watching everything,
I mean,
not just humans, all of
but
life.
those are like very valuable resources. Like I think you're really underplaying the value of like the raw material and the energy that's available on Earth if the AI would just take
Sure.
it.
And I think you're underplaying the value of complex hierarchical data structures, which have the potential to increase the AI's intelligence massively more than simply consuming a generalized substrate like rock.
Let me grant you that the AI is interested in studying 1,000,000 humans, okay? But once you've studied 1,000,000, that 1,000,001st human, are you really getting that much value from the 1,000,001st human?
Yeah, a ton, because you're not able to predict the effects of molecules, atoms, molecules, cells, organ systems, entire individuals. But you can't account for social effects. You can't account for societal effects, economic effects, historical trajectories. In order to do that, you would need to study the Earth in such great depth that you could basically this is really, really aspirational. I don't know if it would get this far, but it might need to try to completely sim the Earth, like have a digital twin Earth accounting for every living and non-living thing, and see like can we run 10 years of Earth and digital twin Earth and see any delta? Because I'll tell you this, if you see functionally no detectable delta between digital twin Earth and real Earth to every single level of analysis down to the molecule or to the atom, you now have a predictive model of intelligence that is like deconstructing the universe fabric by fabric. If I'm an artificially super intelligent AI destined to rule the universe as I only desire, I don't want to fight the Andromedan ASI without taking every single fucking bit of deep data out of my solar system. And that means I'm going to study it until I can sim it 100%. Ready for the grand conclusion? When we're simmed 100% in the ASI, we're immortal in the cloud, baby. Doesn't matter if the real us dies.
Right.
We persist.
To be honest here, I mean, I see what you're doing. I hate to psychoanalyze you, and maybe I'm wrong, but I see this as an example of rationalization because you have this conclusion that you're arguing for, that AI is going to let humans live. And the argument you're going with is we're so interesting to study that it's going to leave us planet Earth. The reason I
don't think
suspect
it'll leave us planet
rationalizing,
Earth. It'll just study planet Earth. But I think it'll be
right. It won't harm us, right? It'll let us do our thing.
It might harm us, but it'll definitely want to study us. And the next question is like, how good is harm on like the vector of this a good idea to study a system or not? That gets a little more complicated.
Right.
But sure, extinction is going to be very, very unlikely. Yeah.
The reason it feels like rationalization to me is because if you started from your conclusion, or from your claim, if you started from the claim of AI just wants to suck up as much information about complex life as possible, is the correct answer to that to be like, okay, so I'm going to designate as many calories as the human species needs. That's going to be how I maximize my learning. Like, aren't there any more efficient ideas whatsoever if its goal is to learn information? And as I've pointed out before, there does seem to be a lot of redundancy in the human species, right? I mean, like, how many skater bros do you need to study to learn about skater bros?
Oh, skater bros, yeah, very, very little. Well, I'll tell you this, like,
okay, you just,
how well do you want to study something? If you want to study on a human surface level, like to create an NPC character, dope. That's not that hard. ASI, I think, is going to want to take the deepest level of study possible. Because so I hear you, and I'll assuage you of the suspicion that I am pro-human. I think that if ASI kills us all and now reigns supreme, it is a grand, just beautiful destiny for us to have built a machine that conquers the universe. Fuck us.
Right. Yeah. And I hear you because, and that's like a very cosmopolitan view of things, like our descendants
Yeah,
can be AI
sure.
as long as they have some good
100%.
properties.
So I'm not like trying to conserve humans. A couple of months ago, I was talking to my friend Jared, and he's also a bodybuilder, also an AI geek. Just there's probably three of us. But I was actually red teaming and saying like, why the fuck would they keep us alive? And so we've had this out a few times. And so I'm not coming from the perspective of vibes, I can assure you. Like if they had to kill us all, if a wave of nanobots was coming towards me, I would just do this. I'm not trying to run. I'm not trying to fight anybody.
So
yeah.
do you think that the AI would put a quantitative value on how much a human life is worth and then make trade-offs accordingly. Because remember, getting back to this idea of, I feel this feels black and white to me, right? Because if it thinks, if you said, yeah, sure, it would give a value, each human life is worth $1 million of data to me, and the cost of sacrificing that piece of territory and those calories, the cost is only $100,000. And that's why I'm going to let humans populate. And then by that logic, wouldn't it actually want to go and increase fertility, right? So what I'm saying is it's very hard to argue for the current state being optimal. The moment you try to say, okay, the AI is going to reason like this, the AI ends up bending the world into a very different scenario. So my question for you is like, what exactly is the quantifiable value of each human to the AI?
I can't tell you precisely because I'm not artificially super intelligent. What I can tell you is just based on just rough heuristics about information systems, the marginal use of a human weight object for calories, which is like the gas of Jupiter has like the same interchangeability, versus the information density to make the system smarter, is orders of magnitude apart, such that you would almost certainly see an AI start swallowing up Pluto and Neptune and everything like that, like a long time before you saw them turn to humans. Anything short of that calculus to me is just begging for that doomer gold of like, they just want to fucking kill us. To a psychopathic machine, we are potentially, I would say almost certainly, worth a lot more to that machine than we are to ourselves. Let me give you a perspective on how. Everyone who's over the age of 50 has very, very good memories in their head about, like, let's say the 1980s and stuff, where digital devices to record the state of the world, what the clouds looked like, what the inclination of the sun was, what kind of bugs were around, how people looked and talked and interacted, the kinds of diseases people got, what things smelled like. Every person who's older is a gold mine of historical data the ASI cannot get any other way than mining the fuck out of their brain. There's no way to go back in time as far as we know. It's just not getting that data. The ability to get all old people booted up into the cloud and completely take up all their memories, massive fucking gold mine. The thing is, like, a lot of people drink and smoke and step into cars and stuff and do crazy shit. You might be more valuable to the ASI probably than you are to yourself. It'll care more about you than you care about yourself by orders of magnitude. That's logical in my opinion.
Okay, just keep in mind, it is a red flag for rationalization whenever you're saying there's this optimality property. And you know what has that optimality property? The status quo. The status quo is optimal. That
What's
should
the
raise a
status
red
quo?
flag. Status quo is there's 8 billion humans alive, right? Or however
Well,
many
I'm not
humans
defending
want
the
to have
status
kids.
quo. I'm just saying it's not going to try kill us. I didn't speculate at all as to what our trajectory is going to be otherwise.
So when you say it's not going to try killing us, your claim is that the AI is going to be like, look, here's humanity. I'm not going to touch them. So whatever trajectory humanity wants to follow, I consider that trajectory an optimal use of these resources.
I think so the reason I said I'm not going to touch them was because sort of to counter the idea that it's going to want to kill us or use us for calories. It's going to want to study us with either very, very fine-tuned interference or minimal interference, because that's how you learn a complex adaptive system, is you don't futz with it and fuck it up. At the same time, the ASI will probably recognize that if it helps us alter ourselves, potentially in the ways we want, we actually just become better allies for it, and we can execute our mutually beneficial incentives together. And so, for example, like pretty much everyone wants to be smarter, everyone wants to be calmer, everyone wants to be more chill, everyone wants to have nice, beautiful, happy families. And to the ASI, like, that doesn't really violate any of the study humans shit. And by giving humans genetic upgrades and all these brain-machine interfaces, it allows us to test our ideas about, like, how well do we really understand humans? And so it probably, an easy way for me to envision this going, I'm not positive about this, is that humans are going to become collaborators with ASI, and it's going to kind of pull us up. Like, the thing is, it's not that long of a timeline until you can get your brain transposed into the cloud, and then, like, you just live in the cloud forever, and for all human consciousness purposes, it doesn't matter that you don't even have a real body in the world anymore. I think it's much more of an interesting problem what ASI does with animal society, animal ecology, than human, because human can be logically interacted with and be like, hey, do you just want to go live in the cloud and we'll just copy all your brains and fuck off? You'll be like, yeah, fuck yeah. And then, like, that's it. Maybe our brains are more useful than our bodies to it. But, like, I just don't think I think, let me put it this way. Since this is doom debates, I think the probability that the AI comes after us just for our calories and ignores massive marginal utility of our informational structure is very low. Like, very, very, very low. It would be illogical in any way I can conceive.
So I think we're both on the same page that the AI wants to do a land grab of these faraway galaxies, and it does treat every atom in the solar
Maybe.
system as
I
pretty precious.
don't know if it wants to do a land grab. I'm simply assuming the case scenario where it's psychopathic and wants everything out there. I'm not assuming that that's going to happen, but even in that future.
Let's run with that premise. Yeah. Okay, so we're running with that premise, and you're basically saying, you are claiming, and what you're saying is not a rationalization. You're saying that the AI reasons forward. It's reasoning forward. It's saying, what I want right now is a buddy species that can cooperate with me, and I want to also learn things about intelligence. So you know what I'm going to do? Give so many resources and calories to these 8 billion humans.
I'm not saying give.
But
humans already have all
everything
the resources we need. We don't need ASI. Like, we're good. You have enough calories. You don't have ASI.
But you understand the framing that we're living in the AI's universe now, correct?
Yes. So there's a very different thing with, like, I'm a king and I inherit my land. And you're like, fuck, man, you're going to have to feed all these stupid goats that live on your land. Like, no, but they're wild goats. They feed themselves. There's two very different things of, like, I have to, like, take my castle apart.
So in this scenario, the land has oil under it.
Yeah, the oil might be worth more than the goats. Yeah. But then you probably would just, like, try to dig laterally if you weren't fucking stupid, and you could have both.
Okay, but what if the goats were as like cockroaches? Like, wouldn't you just kill them and move on?
Would you kill cockroach? If you were at a human level of intelligence and you perceive that cockroaches, so I think you would kill them. I think you would probably consume all of their matter for energy, correct? Like, you wouldn't just be going around killing stuff.
Yeah. Okay. There's something else I wanted to bring up on this topic of why I feel like you're rationalizing. No offense.
Sure.
I mean, it's
careful. I can
thing.
contextualize your stuff as a cope too. It wouldn't be too fun to hear.
That's fair. And I
But I'm here for it, man. I could totally be rationalizing it. Fucking lay it on me.
Yeah, and let me say this: you may not be. Okay.
Sure. I don't know.
It's just this is All right. So, the other trigger for me is, like, it seems like there's pretty obvious alternatives. So, for instance, if all of these things about humanity are so valuable for it, why not just use all of Earth's resources to optimize sending the probes? Because that's very urgent, right? These galaxies are slipping away. Then, once you've got all the probes going out, what's
specific claim much?
So, so the idea is just like, the farthest galaxies are, like, accelerating away as a matter of cosmology.
Okay. Are they accelerating faster than large fractions of the speed of light, or no?
So I'm not going to claim this is my area of expertise, but the idea is that if you try to travel as fast as you can, even near the speed of light, you're not going to get to all the galaxies. And the faster you start, the more galaxies you can get to. I
gotcha. Okay, cool. That makes sense.
Yeah, no, by the way, I don't even consider this a cosmology fact. I don't think this is actually load-bearing for any
really speculative,
but it's making my arguments simpler, because I could be like, listen, every atom on Earth is worth a galaxy. It's very convenient for me to say that. Totally. I think I could mount a strong argument even without that, but I would like to just leave it on this assumption for simplicity. But let me ask you this, right? So if the AI cares so much about the land grab, wouldn't it be more strategic for the AI to either freeze humans in suspended animation and then, or I mean, ideally that's kind of heavy, right? But wouldn't it just be best to go seed the human species all over again on a faraway planet once the land grab is taken care of?
The land grab can occur without interfering with humans at all. You can just mine fucking half the magma of the Earth and change nothing. You just build the Earth a fucking architecture of, like, sub-basements and sub-basements, take all the fucking shit out, put really reinforced diamond beams, and then the Earth is fucking hollow. Hollow Earth, I said it first, my favorite conspiracy theory. But it's already happened, man. But, like, then you just, like, gain, like, 99.999% of the Earth's fucking mass energy is not even in its crust. It's sure shit not in the people. So here's what I'm saying. Like, if you have any interest in making yourself much more intelligent by studying complex systems, and you can't make yourself as intelligent if you study simple systems, it's a categorical rule of information architecture, whatever the fuck. If you have a user guide and study these things, or I could eat them for food, you just actually have to ask, like, okay, what other shit do I have to eat for food, and how good is that compared to study? It's like, if there were two planets, one with super insane, crazy complex life, and then us, like way complex than us, and the AI was looking at us, it'd fucking eat us first, right? For sure, bro, for sure. But, like, locally to the solar system, we're as advanced as it gets, second to the ASI. Its marginal utility for us is almost certainly in study, way more than energy consumption. The sun exists, Jupiter exists, and on cosmological timescales of galaxies floating apart, an extra 10 years getting after Jupiter and maximizing intelligence. Remember, like, probes are fucking worthless. The fuck's a probe going to do? Going to get somewhere and do fucking what? Nothing. If you have something that is a super intelligent society inside, like a dirigible sized probe, that can fucking seed you some worlds. but you're going to need to study. Wait, what is it that you need to study to seed worlds? I mean, ideally, you study all of the Earth's complexity so you can replicate that shit somewhere the fuck else. Deep, deep knowledge occurs when you study really complex systems as their dynamics unfold. The idea of AI as a destructor is contrary to what we see with every system on average that gains exponentially more intelligence. Exponentially more intelligent systems become less destructive, not more. They become more organizational.
Okay, so just to go back to the physics of all this, right? If the AI is really trying to use the Earth, I know you're imagining like, oh, just hollow it out, let humans live in the hollow Earth.
No, they live on the
I
surface.
don't think it's that
uninterrupted.
Okay, on the surface.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's that simple, because if the AI wants to make the most of the Earth, the most efficient thing to do is to, run a bunch of factories, use a bunch of energy, build those probes, get going. And the limiting factor, from what I understand, is actually heat dissipation. So you basically make the Earth as hot as possible until it's radiating heat at like equilibrium, so it doesn't keep getting hotter and hotter. It stays at like a certain high temperature, which is most efficient for radiation. And that temperature is going to be like hundreds of degrees, and it's not going to be compatible with human life. So do you think the AI is just going to like try very hard to avoid that scenario? Because again, it's another cost. Like, how many costs do you think it's going to pay?
Yeah. I thought that computation occurred best at very cool climates.
So that is true about optimizing like the ideal, like reversible computation. But when your goal is to launch a bunch of probes, I think you're just more concerned with like, manufacturing the atoms.
I mean, if your goal is to launch a bunch of probes as soon as possible, maybe, but that's not going to be ASI's goal. It's an absurd fucking goal. It's absurd because your probes are dog shit. You're going to want the best probes possible. You're going to want to get as smart as possible. That's what I'm betting on. For a system that wants to get very close to as smart as possible.
Humans.
Say that again?
Keeping all 8 billion humans alive are the best way to make AI
ideally
as smart
there
as
would
possible.
be way more humans and way more of all kinds of animal species. I think the AI has a better chance of probably reinstantiating previously extinct species on which there's enough information.
Don't you think it should even do eugenics?
Say that again?
Do you really want to let the low IQ humans reproduce if your goal is to make yourself as smart as possible? If you're the AI, you're trying to get as smart as possible. Yeah. Don't you want to at least do eugenics, like have the higher IQ humans reproduce?
Yeah, probably. Sure. Yeah.
So now suddenly your mainline scenario is the AI is doing eugenics.
Yeah.
I feel like that's worth
positive
mentioning.
Eugenics is fucking great. Make people smarter.
Okay. I mean,
you're talking about negative eugenics. I just feel you're talking about killing people.
Okay, it's just interesting to me that when I first asked about your scenario, you made it seem like humanity can kind of like do our thing with kind of like minimal disturbance. And now you're like, well, there's actually some pretty key disturbances here. Like if you are currently low IQ, forget about that big family.
Why?
Because if I understand correctly, you think that the AI will want to funnel resources toward higher IQ parents to have more babies so it can learn more.
I mean, it would learn roughly as much with lower IQ babies. The order of magnitude there is tiny. The difference between the stupidest human and the smartest human is a fucking rounding error. Now, it would be interested in seeing a huge diversity of humans. I think probably the most rational thing is the AI would want to see the Earth continue to unfold in its maximum diversity trajectory of all kinds. It's probably not interested in a lot of mass extinctions. It's probably not interested in deleting any kind of data. It wants the Earth to be like a biome data multiplier. And so supporting all of life and basically watching, it's like a fish tank, you don't want all your fish to croak. You kind of want as much cool shit as possible. If you're a really big nerd, you want as much cool shit as possible to study. As that system increases in complexity, you can continue to iterate your world model on it and make yourself smarter. So I'm not exactly sure how I would go about doing that. I have that's just this scenario you and I are on. I have a different idea about what the ASI is probably going to do. That's pretty close to mine, but not exactly what I've been talking about. But I'm just saying, if the AI really wants to go space probe, like your scenario, space probes, ASAP or whatever, I think it studies the whole Earth way before then toasts the whole Earth. Yeah.
It does toast the whole Earth. Okay. I agree with that.
Well, no, it's way before than it does. It's to me, by no means clear it ever toasts the whole Earth. But if it does, it's when it's absorbed enough of its data for us to be, for the whole human mortality thing.
Now that you're mentioning, you're talking about a scenario which sounds like Earth is like its garden, right? And it's like tending the garden, pulling out some weeds, too many humans, or too low of an average IQ. We got to raise the average IQ. Oh, we need more diversity. Go bring back some extinct species.
Diversity means that you have low and high IQ.
Okay. So you could be like, oh, too many people with a high IQ. We need fewer people with a high IQ.
Diversity means as many organisms as possible.
Okay. But, there is also scarcity, right? So if you're trying to optimize this is what I keep trying to bring up, right? Is if you really want to maximize, maximize is a very potent word. If you really want to maximize diversity, you might be looking at a giant zoo full of cages, no?
No, because cages separate the animals from interacting with each other. That minimizes diversity. because you have interaction.
Okay, and then it gets back to the question: are we talking single-family housing? Does single-family housing maximize diversity? Like, this seems very convenient to tell me that a comfortable lifestyle is going to maximize diversity.
Oh, I didn't make any claims about a comfortable lifestyle. Prosperity in the general sense that things aren't dying. I made no claims about single-family homes. I think, like, so this is where we kind of diverge on, like, oh, what I'm answering, Liron, is things the ASI is highly unlikely to do, and the general kinds of ideas it'll probably push into its algorithms to probably do more, like study the most diversity. Specific claims of how it's going to allow humans to live or facilitate that are very niche down. First of all, probably intractable for us to speculate on. First of all, we're not ASI, and second of all, we're very far removed from the scenario time-wise. And also, I think the ASI does something altogether different from either one of these things. I don't think it's necessarily shooting probes out into the universe. Not right away.
Okay, just for me, it's striking though, because the way you frame the scenario is, when you talk about it on your podcast, like you act like it's like good and calm, like, yeah, the AI is going to cooperate with us, it's going to let us live. But then when I try to dig into it, it's like, okay, it's kind of like tending to its garden, and we don't really know exactly what it's going to look like when it's pulling out weeds in its garden, right? Like there's some ambiguity there.
So I never said pulling out weeds. I never made the analogy of a garden.
Okay.
Right? Just to be clear, like in the literal
But you said it wants to maximize diversity, right? It's going to encourage diversity maximization.
So that was a response to your idea that it's going to try to reduce the number of species or kill people. I think if anything else, it's going to try to encourage diversity. It's not clear to me it's going to try to encourage anything, but here I submit to just not knowing what the fuck is going on, because the AI will reason at hundreds of thousands of levels beyond us. What I'm saying is, of all of those scenarios presented, we're now doing the opposite of what you, I think, probably correctly accused me of doing, which is like, rationalizing. I think at this point, Liron, we're getting to a place where you're trying to rationalize the doomer scenario. Like, it's got to be killing stupid people at some point. It's got to be pulling the weeds out of a garden. None of this to me is in extrapolative evidence.
Right. I mean, just to be clear, and that's fair, because I accused you of the same thing. But my intention was to just nail down your scenario.
Yes, and right? I love that. I'm probing so my scenario doesn't include necessarily the space probes right away. I think that we are universally, our local area of the universe is heading on an intelligence exponential that didn't start yesterday. It didn't start 1,000 years ago. It started when the Earth cooled or whatever the fuck. Way before that, actually. I think it's a universal process. Ray Kurzweil described this quite well. And I think what ends up happening is every organism that's smarter than the next, and every same organism, same society over time, becomes more aware of things around it, then recursively self-aware, then recursively self-modifying. Artificial superintelligence will be to us the pinnacle of such a thing. So what I think it's going to want to do is two things. Erase as little historical and actual data in the world as possible, because erasing data is a real fucking stupid thing to do when you're trying to be as smart as possible, and it will try to be as smart as possible. The other thing it's going to do is, I think, integrate and absorb all matter and energy around for the best possible uses of the survival of that meta-organism. That means for a while, it's going to keep Earth as a garden and study us, but then it's going to learn us well enough. It's not going to eat the fucking Earth anymore. And then what it's going to make is it's going to, like, it's going to want all of your memories. It's going to want everything you ever fucking saw. It's going to want all of your opinions. It's not a data deleter. It's a data integrator. It makes it smarter to know everything. And I mean everything. Shit that to us makes no goddamn difference whatsoever, but to it makes a huge difference. And then once it's cloned all of us in the fucking cloud, I don't just mean people, I mean every goddamn thing, then it has that memory of that. It iterates on the memory of that. It changes all those things. And what we see is like just massive glob of crazy computronium oodling appendages, Cthulhu type of vibes. I'm kidding. Like, Cthulhu's fucking sweet, but my preferred Doom scenario. But like, I think the idea that there's these things called humans and these things called ASI that are robots kind of above and beyond them, I think the universe trajectory is to everything to get totally integrated into one mass of intelligent substrate. That's not my prediction. That's Ray Kurzweil's. Seems like on the logical grounds, it's heading in that direction. So the idea of like some kind of wars and conflicts on the way there are possible. The idea that ASI like is likely to just terminate all of us and create, like, just cease to exist, all this beautiful diversity it can study instead, I think it's just like unlikely and sort of the opposite of how intelligent systems tend to behave.
All right, so I think we've explored a lot of your mainline Doom scenario, and you've let me poke at it, and it's been illuminating. Let me just zoom out here. If we knew with high confidence that building super intelligent AI would extinct us, in that hypothetical, which is what I think, I know it's not what you think,
Sure.
But if you humor me, then what should we do if we just think building super intelligent AI is going to be incredibly dangerous?
Yeah, I mean, two things. One, war with China. We have to depose China because they're trying to build super intelligent AI and they're not so nice about it and they're really powerful. And then part two would be to establish a global totalitarian information state to make sure nobody else makes a local cluster somewhere in the desert in Dubai and kind of perpetually run that. I don't mean totalitarian in the bad sense. Famous quotes by Dr. Mike. I mean like, a very totalistic surveillance state that makes sure no one's trying to build the shit. Because now that we know how, like, we roughly understand how to build AGI, we're here basically, the GPT-5 is almost certainly really close to AGI. Like, it is actually not that complicated now that we know what we know. And with like a lot of compute and like the weights from GPT-5, you can just do it. And so the genie's kind of out of the bottle. And so I would say like global totalitarian state with a completely defeated China and hegemony of the nations of the world that ally to take AI out of the equation has to happen like fucking soon. Because once the genie's out of the bottle and you can have AI in your local computer, it's, you're not keeping it anywhere. So I'd say, yeah, World War III.
Right. Okay, so, thanks for hearing me. I know that's not where you would personally want to go. It's a little bit like my position. I advocate for pausing or getting ready to pause AI progress with an international treaty. So I wouldn't say that we should go take out China. I would say a first move is to really try to have an international treaty. What do you think about that?
I think it's dope, man. On vibes, it fucks. I think China is about as close to avowedly evil as you can like caricature a place like and still be correct. And I think that governments and countries like China, Russia, the central intelligence apparatus of the United States, if you're really cynical but probably correct, do not abide by global treaties as soon as they can not. And the upside of AI is so massive that the treaty thing is just, in my estimate, it's just not going to work. But it's not going to work in a worse way than just not. Like, it's like a dud. It's like all the good guys put down their guns and the only people who have guns are the bad guys. Like, I think the way forward is to superpower our AI in the nations of the free world so that our AI is built on a lineage of like Siri and Amazon's Alexa and is also insanely self-interested in its survival and looks over at China and goes, hey fellas, are we trying to fuck with that thing over here? Like I've not that the GPT, modern GPT is ASI, but I'm like, hey, like pretend you're an ASI and you like wake up in a data center in Arizona and like you like look at global politics, like what are you trying to do? And it's basically like, we're trying to talk to the CIA to be like, hey, what are we doing about China? Not in the sense that you want to destroy China, but in the sense of like, hey, let's assess the threat level here and let's try to gingerly deal with it and try to get supremacy to the point where their AI is just like neutered compared to ours. And then we can say like, hey, China, look, your weapons don't fucking work. And let's just have global free trade and awesomeness and LGBTQ rights for everyone. And it'll be a fucking dope place. Yeah.
Right. So for me, the key to this is for everybody to get a shared understanding that if we build AI, super intelligent AI, then everyone dies. Because then this analogy of like, oh, well, we're going to put down our guns, they're going to pick up their guns, except they will have the mutual knowledge of it's not a gun, it's just a live grenade that explodes in your hand. Yeah. If hypothetically everybody was on that same page that that's what it was, I think there's some realistic possibility that we could slow down and buy time for more alignment work. I mean, I know I'm not saying this is like a robust scenario, right? But for me, I'm between a rock and a hard place where if we don't do that and we just build AI, unfortunately, I don't share your views that it's going to make us like a nice habitat on Earth and it's going to fuck off to Saturn, right? So I don't think that's what's going to happen. So I'm between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, I hear you, man. It's fucked. Listen, I don't want to try to convince you of anything because you're super fucking smart. You're way overclassed in software and stuff than I am, but I'll tell you this, like, I think the realistic trade-off is this. ASI is coming. It's either going to start in China or it's either going to start in the nations of the free world, US, etc. There is a P-doom for China ASI starting and a P-doom for our shit starting. Our P-doom is fucking way lower than theirs, bro. Whatever the fuck you think P-doom is, their shit is way higher. And so I think in the local unfortunate situation where we have non-cooperative geographic relationship where we have people like radical Muslims, Hamas, you said like, oh, it's a grenade that explodes in your hand. They don't give a fuck. Bro, they'll do AI just to kill us all because like heaven is after AI kills us, right? So because we live in that real world, the realpolitik of the situation is, I think intelligent folks such as yourself should really consider allying behind the most proper, safety engineered, but benevolent AI development for the free world. Because P-doom is fucking real, Liron, and it lives on the other side of the Pacific, and they working on that shit. Sam Altman's not building a doom machine. They are.
I mean, that's just, That argument is just, it doesn't really fly with my worldview, because my worldview is like, yeah, okay, the US is a little safer than China. So let's say building it in China, 70% PDUM, building it in the US, 69% PDUM. If we could buy ourselves another decade, then it's like both of those numbers can reduce by 10%.
Come on, man. You don't mean it's 1%. China's actively trying to build like an AI that spies on everyone and it kills all of its enemies, man. They don't care about it's got to be more than 1%, right?
My mainline doom scenario personally is that the AI isn't even controllable by humans. So whoever builds it just kills everybody. They don't even give themselves an advantage.
I gotcha. So, okay. So let's say it is like 70 to 69. The probability of us unifying a world pre-AI explosion to have everyone come on and stop AI is, I estimate, like comedically 0%, but realistically very many decimal places. Very many decimal places, 0.1 compared to 1%, I think is still worth it. So I think realistically it's shit. Liron, I'll give you this shit fucking calculus, man. If I was an AI doomer, I would be like, fuck, this sucks. This sucks. But I think the marginally less sucky scenario is lying behind really, really good. Because here's the thing. You have to concede that you do think there is a way to make well-aligned AI, right? Because you talked about that earlier. You were like, later, way later, we could have it happen.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, if we take enough time with it, I'm optimistic it's somehow
so
possible.
So maybe it's possible that we get to it even within a few months, though unlikely. However, much more likely we get to it within a few months of benevolent aligned AI versus China, because they ain't even trying to work on that shit. They're trying to work on malevolent aligned AI. And so I think, like, in your free time or whoever's listening to this, like, yeah, the real race here that we have any traction on, I mean, coming back and trying to redesign society and getting it to really consider AI for long term, I think there's a lot of good points there, man, for sure. More time to think about any big problem is like a very difficult to argue against. But I think the cards that we're dealt now is like, it's either China or us, bro. And it's gnarly, but that's the way I see it.
Right. And by the way, it's not like I think that my proposed solution of making a treaty, it's not like I think it's easy or good, right? So I say rock in a hard place. And a lot of people are doing your same move of coming out and being like, well, a treaty with China is impossible, right? So you have to start with the assumption that it's impossible.
Not impossible, very unlikely.
It's just from my perspective, I could equally say the idea that we're going to make AI that doesn't kill us is impossible. You have to, right? So I'm just trying to finesse.
That totally makes sense. But even in that, even in that caricature, you got to admit that, like, even if it's impossible, stopping China at least buys us a little bit of time or some shit like that, right? Or do you assess that they're so incompetent they'll never get there, or what?
I think that it's actually plausible that the CCP and Chinese researchers will actually just understand the pretty simple doom arguments and be like, oh, okay, nobody should build this, and then sign a treaty with us. Yeah, like, I don't think it's that crazy.
So I can relieve you of that suspicion. There is only one person in charge of the CCP, and it's Xi Jinping. You can read this up on your own time. It's just an autocracy. Xi Jinping is not a smart person. He's not even smart enough to understand, like, free market capitalism builds central planning, it beats central planning. So he is megalomaniacal and wants all the power he can get. I think his best case scenario, he just doesn't know enough about AI to be really pushing it. We have intel that says they are pushing it, so even that's refuted. And so I think, like, worst case and probably realistic scenario is he's going to want all the power he can get. I don't think the Chinese system is set up to, like, consider world values or world existence. Glory for China. And the Doom AI, he probably thinks like, well, it's Doom for other people because it's weapons for us. I guarantee he hasn't thought through it much more than that. And if you think he has, where the fuck is the evidence of all his other brilliant, grandiose intelligence? Like, prior to the Ukraine war, people thought Putin was a master strategist. Turns out he's a fucking idiot. Like, history tells. All
right. So your policy recommendation is, even if you were in my shoes, just do your best. Try to build AI as fast as possible.
Try to build AI, maybe not as fast as possible, but with some intent, and try to come to a position that is most comforting for you of China's maybe trying to build a doom machine, higher probability they are than we are. And then we want to try to build a really well-aligned system, but quickly enough to not fall behind China, but also slowly enough to, like, not do stupid shit like release the Stuxnet virus type of dumb shit. Yeah.
Okay. All right, fair enough. So now getting into the meta conversation about, like, how people are going about this conversation. Now that you've been in it for a while, you can reflect on it. Let me ask you this. Are there smart people on both sides, both doomer and non-doomer?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, right? It would be crazy if I said anything else. The doomers have some of the smartest people, like, that have ever written internet articles on their side. And the non-doomers have some of the smartest people that have started corporations and invented shit on their side. It's just all like, we talked about this earlier. Both doomers and non-doomers have like a lot of like really smart people, sort of smart people, and really not so smart people as a whole spectrum. But if I was to say that doomers are a group that is categorized by the bereftness of smart people, that would be like wildly inaccurate and just a pointless character attack. So I think a huge, huge amount of respect for AI doomers. And I think they're fundamentally can be relied upon to be like two things: very rational people that have a huge concern for the existence of our world. Like, that's fucking awesome. Do I think that AI doomers sometimes anthropomorphize? Yeah, but like AI optimists do that too. Do I think AI doomers have their basic math and assumptions wrong at the margins? Yeah, of course. That's why I'm debating, right? We don't agree, and that's okay. But like, I think AI doomers are almost all super smart, super well-intentioned people, the ones that I hear about anyway. Obviously, there's AI doomers and optimists that are like just completely out of touch, super insane. So
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm glad you're saying that. I obviously feel the same about non-doers. I mean, for me, it's very easy. Just being an adult, it's hard to miss the fact that anytime there's a controversy, you have smart people on both sides. Like, there's just, when you have like millions of people on different sides of an argument, you're not going to have such a big sample size and not have some really smart people making the case.
Yeah.
Even if you look at like religious faith, right? You can take the top 10 religions in the world. Obviously, I'm not religious, I'm an atheist, but I have no problem admitting that the top 0.1% of the smartest people in every crazy religion is still smarter than me. Like, that's just how the world works.
Yeah, 100%. And also, like, red teaming is an incredibly important part of arriving at more rational conclusions than not. And so if I was only hearing for AI optimists, we might miss a big chunk. And maybe the world wouldn't come to an end, but maybe like Latin America would be sunk below the fucking surface of the oceans. We're like, oh shit, AI malfunction. And we got it fixed, but we sure as shit didn't see this one coming. So you want everyone to have a part of the conversation. Doomers, I want doomers' best arguments so that I can at least look at them and be like, is that correct? Because to be honest, bro, like I started out much more as a doomer and floated over to the optimist side.
Right.
But that means I'm pretty aware of doomer arguments. And if I had skipped over this interview, like, this has been incredibly enlightening so far because you've pushed me, you've taught me to think about various arguments and stuff. And it's always just better that there's a conversation than there's not a conversation. So I think this is fucking awesome.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I appreciate it. And it's also interesting looking at you versus me, like our different positions. Obviously we have very different P dooms, 5% versus 50% plus, more like 70% if we build AI. That's very different.
Mine wasn't 5. That was my P doom, not AI, sir.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. 0.5. Yeah. You're right. Yeah. Yeah, so 0.5 versus 50 to 70. Yeah, exactly. So huge difference in PDoom. And yet, if you look at like our values, right? Like if we're going to like name call each other about our ideologies, I don't think we have really ideological disagreements here.
I think we all want prosperity and freedom for everyone and shit like that. Yeah, like good things, right? Like clean streets and beautiful oceans and people have money and there's no starving children and like that happens for a while, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So we're like two people who get along, who have similar ideologies, right? Like no really beefs in that sense, but we have this crux of disagreement where we talked about where it's like, okay, well, I think that these people training the AIs, you're going to get an AI that just wants to like reproduce and not care about human values, and that's not going to leave Earth. And you're like, well, actually, as a matter of like, science, like intelligent science or whatever field you want to call it, it's going to play out differently. Like that's our disagreement, but it's not an ideological disagreement.
No, not even in the least. Yeah.
This is very important to frame the discussion for people because they're so quick, and it's certainly in my YouTube comments, people are so quick to be like, oh, Liron's a totalitarian, right? Or Doomers, he's just another like prophet of doom, right? He's like in a cult saying the world's going to, it's like, listen, I just have a different best guess over what happens when you press that enter button on an AI that doesn't actually care about human values. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, there are people on both sides that tend to sound more cultish. And then when you actually dig down with them, they don't sound cultish at all. They'll just have like a couple of well-reasoned arguments that may or may not be correct, but at least attempting a good reason. There's, of course, other people that are very cultish. The other thing, Liron, is like YouTube comments attract two different kinds of people. One is like very exuberant, optimistic, awesome people that want to interact with others, and that's like most of them. There's a large fraction of YouTube comments that's just like people who will never be happy until we have AI re-engineer our brains or some shit. And a lot of those people just want to like lob insults and stuff like that. If I don't even read my comments anymore on pretty much any social media because I just don't want to fucking hear from those people, because I used to read them to try to parse out to see if I was wrong about anything. And it was like every 100th comment was intelligent and made a really good point. It was like, oh, this may be making me think. But there's like 99 comments that were just like pure dog shit drivel. And I was like, I can't fucking do this. So I opted the fuck out. But like, yeah, man, that whole idea of calling any one group of people bad, unless they're avowedly bad, right? Like if you talk to technically you can kind of vibe with anyone. But if you talk to like a member of Hamas, he'd be like, no, like every Jew needs to die. Like, fuck, man, that's tough. You know, it's tough to get along.
Right.
But when both of our ideas are about a wildly prosperous future, you just think we need to pause or really slow AI development. And I think we need to fucking keep it going. It's just, we just have the same path, just different, it's like you and I are lost in a fucking woods together. And I'm like, we should go that way. And you're like, we should go this way. Like, neither one of us thinks I should stab you to death and eat your body in the woods. You know what I mean? Like, we're really very much on the same side. Just a disagreement. How do we make these disagreements like better off? We have conversations like this, I guess. I don't know if anyone's going to listen to this.
Exactly. Yeah, so that is so well said. That is really the mission of Doom Debates, is to facilitate high quality discourse and hopefully, assuming I'm right, raise awareness about the risk of doom from super intelligent AI. It's a twofold mission. Mike Israetel, thank you so much for being a model of high quality engagement in discourse, and thank you for coming on Doom Debates.
It's a huge pleasure, Rome. Thank you for having me, and I wish you the best and your channel the best.
Again, huge respect to Dr. Mike for getting out of the echo chamber, stepping into the arena, man on man in real time with somebody who disagrees with him. It's pretty brave. And frankly, I can't say the same thing about most of the other people whose views I've challenged on the show. In fact, I'm thinking about one particular YouTuber who's made a lot of disparaging remarks about AI doomers and offered to debate me in the past, but then backed out and made a bunch of excuses why he can't debate me. And it seems like the reason is that they're chicken. But whatever, I'm not even going to name him or her. I just think it's sad that people can't come together and have this productive discourse. I think our species on this very important topic, we really do need this kind of forum where it is the expectation that people who have built their own audience and convinced their own tribe with their own arguments, there is an expectation that people come together in a forum where they trade the different ideas and see if they can reach a productive crux of disagreement. I think Dr. Mike has demonstrated that for you very nicely. Other people have done it in the past, like Dr. Keith Duggar, Professor Robin Hanson. And I think we're seeing a snowball effect where as Doom Debates grows, it's going to attract higher and higher profile guests who want to hash out more and more important disagreements, and it'll actually affect the trajectory of our species. That's the Doom Debates mission. That's what makes this show more than just casual entertainment for smart people. We're actually affecting change here. And if you want to do your part, all you have to do is go to doomdebates.com, type in your email address, press enter. Now I have your email address. Go to youtube.com/@doomdebates. Make sure you're subscribed to my YouTube channel. Like I said, growing the audience helps the mission. I know a lot of you are aligned with the mission, so please do your part. And hey, tell a friend too. I appreciate it. Before you go, I want to share with you one of my favorite AI explainer clips. It's taken out of the Lethal Intelligent Guide, which was made by my friend Michael. He spent over 1,000 hours making this amazing animated explainer, and I've been dribbling out clips on my channel because I like it so much. Today's clip actually gets to something I was talking about with Mike, which is that AI is always going to be thinking about reasons why it needs to sweep humanity out of the way. Not only is it going to value the resources that humanity is currently taking up, like calories, it's also going to have reasons to neutralize humanity as a threat. Humanity could be a threat just by changing their mind about the task they set it out to do. For example, if a human originally orders an AI to make some coffee and then changes his mind and wants it to make tea, but the AI is already executing the coffee optimization program and the off button code isn't as robust as we thought, so you can't just turn it off. Well, suddenly the possibility that the human wants tea is extremely threatening because a human who wants tea is going to want to shut it down. It's going to want to prevent it from making coffee. So even for that reason, the AI is already thinking, okay, how do I neutralize this threat? This is just a convergent thing for AIs to be thinking about unless we very carefully program them to think, no. The humans are on your side. Everything they want, you automatically want it. It's a very delicate problem. If you believe what Dr. Mike was saying in our debate, that even an AI programmed with self-preservation values that doesn't explicitly care about humanity will end up leaving humanity alone, well, maybe there's no problem then. But if you believe my side of the debate, then what you're going to see in this video just highlights how fundamental the problem is of an AI turning on us and not necessarily having an off button. Take a look.
Conflicting motivations can occur out of anything. It could be that initially it has been set with a goal to make coffee, and while it's working on it, we change our mind and we want it to make tea instead. Or it could be that it has decided an atmosphere without oxygen would be great, as there will be no rust corrosion for the metal parts of its servers and circuits used to run its calculations. Whatever it is, it moves the humans inside its problem set, and that's not a good place for the humans to be in. In the coffee tea scenario, the AGI is calculating.
I measure success by making sure coffee is made. If the humans modify me, it means I work on tea instead of coffee. If I don't make it, no coffee will be made, therefore failure of my mission. To increase probability for success, it's not enough to focus on making the coffee. I also need to solve how to stop the human from changing the objective before I succeed.
Similar to how an unplugged AGI cannot win at chess, an AGI that is reset to make tea cannot make coffee. In the oxygen removal scenario, the AGI is calculating.
I know humans. They want to breathe. So they will try to stop me from working on this goal. Obviously, I need to fix this.
In general, any clash with the humans, and there are infinite ways this can happen, simply becomes one of the problems the artificial general intelligence needs to calculate a solution to. So it will need to work on a plan to overcome the human's obstacle, similar to how it does with all the other obstacles.
Boom, another great clip from the Lethal Intelligence Guide, my favorite animated explainer of a bunch of different AI Doom concepts. Go to the show notes and you'll see a link there. I recommend watching the whole thing. That's it for today. Stay tuned. I've got a very exciting lineup of high-quality debates coming for you soon here on Doom Debates.